The story begins with the fact that the guy and the girl were lying on the ground, and he asked why she avoids him. He desperately asked her not to leave, but the girl asked to let her go, because she should leave him for a while. The guy, sometimes innocently grumbling tears, asked if he was disgusting to her, but he never heard an answer. He again asked her not to leave, although sometimes he looked at the monster, intentionally to get what he wanted. Here he is, the main character of this novel, because they are now in a prison that was the central place of events. Some time ago, the guard tapped a club in camera 4886, saying that urgent delivery had received her. The pink-haired girl, who had difficulty woke up from sleep, felt that she was cold and then jumped. She was surprised that she woke up in a prison cell, although she remembered for sure that she was falling asleep in her warm house. She began to look around, trying to understand what she was doing here, and most importantly, how she got to this place. At first, she thought it was a dream, because she opened her eyes in an unfamiliar place, which turned out to be a prison camera. But it was not a dream. After a while, the girl realized that she managed to get into the book that she had read recently, and now she is in the body of a character whom she does not even know, and also in a cold prison cell. Usually, immigrants begin their way with luxurious beds, servants, delicious food, and rich estates. But it was she who for some reason woke up on a prison bunk, which is fundamentally different from what she was used to reading. In the end, she, Liana, almost accepted her fate. But why she managed to fall into a tragic novel, romance with the largest number of positive reviews, begins as if it were a great masterpiece. The main character, France, who is a very kind girl, for which he will pay a lot in the future. She is responsible for the misconduct of her father. Therefore, she goes to jail. But in fact, she was innocent. She was always an innocent, but curious lady, and once decided to carefully walk around the prison. France went deep into the banned territory, where she met one single and dangerous prisoner. This man was the main character, Heinrich Dorian von Hell, who was very famous among the nobility. The ducal genus Hell has a force transmitted from generation to generation. The same thing concerned Dorian. People from the clan who are not able to cope with this incomparable power, they are sent to prison to Grrrrr, and I am allowed to leave the walls of the prison until the one who is able to withstand the birth power is born. It gives extraterrestrial force comparable to the power of monsters, but deprives the bearers of reason, forcing them to suffer. The main character, having heard his story, decides to free the prisoner from the shackles, but the problem arose. As soon as he was released, he turned into a monster. But what was next limits the age rating. At one point, a very pretty chief villain who adds drama appears. And so the arch of a cruel love triangle begins, where two men are fighting for the heart of France. The protagonist has a difficult character, and the villain, although it is secondary, is in no way inferior in stubbornness. Liana thought that now the plot picture has developed completely, although it did not quite correspond to the genre. As she understood, the families of the protagonist and the villain enmity, they will also display this love triangle. And after some time, Liana got used to the prison, getting acquainted with the guard, and sometimes played with them in cards. Looking around the room, she thought that here the camera, in which the main male character is located. But however, the girl could not see anything, mentally asking, is it really impossible to even make a window? Now she understands why at the beginning they showed the protagonist evil, because the situation around overshadows anyone. At that very moment, Liana laid out on the table a combination of full house, happy to declare Hans that she had won. The prison guard looked at her in shock, asking loudly how a girl could play poker so well. She replied that although she won, he would still receive a reward, so that she could come here more often. The girl thought that there are a lot of nobles in the central part of the prison, so all the guards are knights here. Henry Dorian was very dangerous by the novel, because he was followed by strict observation and hard appeal. But while the plot has not begun, the guard is very supple. To appease and find out something for Liana is very easy. The girl smiled and decided to ask for a favor, after which she pointed to the camera, asking if she could take a look. Hans first refused, after which he asked not to look at him so touched. Besides, the caretaker would come soon. But when Liana handed him a pack of cigarettes, the guard was delighted, allowing her to look there for a short time. Hans was beside himself with joy, after which he gave the keys to a girl who was very pleased with her bribery. Before she inserted the key into the keyhole, the guard asked where she got a cigar's liquor from. Turning around, Liana, with a sweet smile, replied that her brother was sending, after which she added that she would return soon. This part of the prison, where she entered, looks truly frightening. It seemed that they were not completely cleaned here. Wandering with a lamp on the cell, she found on the floor of the lying guy that she did not react to her. Her eyes widened when she realized that she had found the protagonist of the novel, Heinrich Dorian, sleeping on the floor. Looking at him live, the girl blushed. She thought that he was very beautiful and pretty. At that very moment, the guy woke up and wiped his eyes, as the lamp was too bright for a dark camera. Seeing a stranger in front of him, he smiled while she asked how a person could be so beautiful. Suddenly, Dorian published a dog barking, which did not faintly dumbfound Liana. She tried to understand if she was heard. Liana could not believe that the very curse that was mentioned in the book literally turns into a beast. Looking at the guy, she realized that he was not in the best condition, and on her neck there was a limiting print. When the girl wanted to touch him, Dorian suddenly published an evil roar, after which he attacked her. Liana bounced back from the fright, but the protective barrier that arose from nowhere prevented his attack. The girl was still shaking with fear while she watched Dorian beat the indestructible barrier with his fists. She did not expect this, but with irritation, she thought that now it was clear why there was no chain on him. She is simply magical. But this did not cancel the fact that the guy almost bit her and was very frightened. Liana tried to understand what for the men went, because as it could just bite, the future looks like a dog. At that very moment, she wondered why he suddenly became so aggressive, because she simply pulled her hand to him. Suddenly, Dorian began to bark again, and the girl decided to first calm this dog and distract his attention. Noticing a branch next to her, she took her in her hands, after which she began to drive her in front of the guy, and it worked. With undisguised interest, he grabbed her with his teeth, which Liana was again surprised, but for the guy it was the norm. She immediately asked to give the stick back, without even thinking that he would immediately cling to her with his teeth. Suddenly, the girl decided that he understands her, but you need to understand this for sure while she was here. Then she showed him two fluffy balls, fastened with a rope among themselves, asking if he knew what it was. This attracted the attention of Dorian, who was fascinated by letting the stick, carefully looking at the balls. Suddenly, he grabbed the girl by the hand, after which he looked at her with a displeased look, forcing Liana to flinch. When he slowly opened his mouth, the girl asked him to stop, asking if he wanted to bite her again. She asked him to stop, when suddenly the guy crawled back. In shock, I asked what she did with him. The reddened and embarrassed Dorian shouted that she herself had taken up his hand, and before that, he had not bitten anyone. Liana was dumbfounded while watching a sobbing guy and asked herself what was happening here. A few minutes later, Dorian stopped crying, saying that this was his first time, so he was very surprised. Liana asked not to use the phrase for the first time, because misunderstanding may happen. The guy wanted to prove that this is not a misunderstanding, but the girl firmly stated that it was it. At that very moment, Dorian's face was sad, and the guy fell silent, slowly lowering his gaze to the floor. Liana was surprised that he became so after every return of reason, after which she apologized. Dorian was touched, because this is the first time someone apologizes to him. The girl asked him to calm down. Suddenly, she ran to him and grabbed his hands, asking for listening. Then she said that the championship was not important. As someone will appear kinder, such a trifle will immediately be forgotten, because in the future there will be a lot of similar ones. Then she removed her hands, saying that she had not specifically grabbed him, but hoped that he realized what she was talking about. At that very moment, she blushed and looked away, saying that her name was Liana. Now she was very embarrassed. Suddenly, the guard said that time was over. The girl explained to Dorian that she needed to return. She was wondering how much he had already stayed here, in this dark and gloomy place, which could drive crazy. Relying only on the weak light emanating from the corridor, Liana noticed that he was younger than she had expected. She would like to see his face at the moment when she left, but the light in the room was too dull. But a little move. The light from the candle was no longer enough to make out something. Besides, it was necessary to leave quickly. Sometime later, a subordinate ran into the warder's room, hinting that he had important news. The worried guy said that one of the cameras had been committed, and this should be investigated. The man who was engaged in papers specified whether it was a penetration of a special danger to the criminal. Having decided that the guards did not look at this, the man ordered to immediately go and find out who was so brave there. The next day, Liana sat in a common room where all prisoners were in their free time and talked. The more she looked out, the more surprised, because this place was barely reminiscent of a prison, rather, even the opposite. But still it is she. Do not forget that the bulk of the people here are nobles, therefore the conditions are appropriate. Although they are not available to everyone, there are unusual dishes and desserts, walks and classes of their favorite hobbies. Liana had some kind of dissonance in her head, because despite the room, everyone was dressed in the same prison form. The girl shuddered when someone asked to look at this charm, which she first held in her hands. He turned into his head, and she noticed that two girls were discussing aromas from the new collection. It was about spirits. Liana thought that somehow phrases with the meaning of something for the first time very often come to her ears recently. Last night, Dorian with tears in his eyes said that he was the first to sound very ambiguous. You might think that some kind of love story will follow, but this does not happen, because it is limited by the seal. The magical device holds him in prison, and he can leave this place only if you get rid of the shackles. There is only one person who is able to release him. This is the main character of the novel, which is unknown when it appears. Thanks to her, he will be able to leave this place in just 4 years. But when she can do it? Without a concept. Suddenly, Baron Paladis came up to her, who asked why it sighs and whether he dreams of liberation. Liana asked not to talk about liberation, because there is a feeling that she was really some kind of criminal. He asked whether she was against, if he arrived. She asked him to say something in response. After thinking a little, the man replied that if something is, then she could look at his reflection. After all, if he were in her place, he would be happy to reflect every day. The girl replied that there was nothing joyful in this. She turned away displeasedly, calmly asking what he was talking about, because she was the same as all prisoners here. Liana asked to tell something interesting, to which the Pilatus replied that there was recent news about the Dormilits. The girl realized that we were talking about the Duchy of Dormalite, one of the 3 largest dukes of the empire, and the house of the main villain. It will be great, even if after release, she will be able to observe the progress of the plot of this novel from the outside. The man shone his eyes when he stated that the Black Rose of the Empire, Dormalite, had an interesting case the other day. If you believe the rumors, the Dormulites bought jewelry at the underground auction not so long ago. But that's not all. Among these jewelry was tiara, which Her Majesty lost, and now she was in the hands of the Dormilits. Liana immediately thought that if it was tiara of the Empress herself, then the main character found her for sure. As soon as the hearing passed, the imperial family ordered to search for the Dormulite estate, but tiara was not found. Strong doubts and suspicions hung in their direction, yet this Duke of Dormalit, Caesar, is very insidious and cunning. The girl, drinking tea, agreed with the Pallades of his cunning, because it was not for nothing that he is the main antagonist of history. Suddenly, the man said that they were not ending on this rumor, and Liana noticed that he had inflamed directly. He asked, heard or she did a real treasure Dormalite. There is a rumor that Caesar had a sister. Liana knew about the younger sister of the main villain. The character died of an incurable disease before the story began. The Dormulites stole the Empress, as in the original plot, which means that everything goes smoothly. Paladus asked why she would not tell something, and whether she liked the adventure that she spoke of. The girl smiled and answered in the affirmative, thinking that there was not even one window in that place, like here. Then she asked if he knew how to meet with a caretaker in order to ask him about something. That same evening, Liana came to Dorian with food, and with a smile asked if he wanted to go for a walk. But in response, she heard only barking, after which she smiled awkwardly, thinking that he was again in the dog mode. Looking at the barking guy, the girl squeezed his fist, thought that he was even very beautiful and pretty in this image. No matter how much she offers bribes, it will not work to visit this part of the prison every day, only once every 3 days. And now she was very sorry that he did not have a switch, because when she asked to calm down, he did not listen. Suddenly, Dorian calmed down sharply, after which the girl asked him in surprise if he still understood her words, and she decided to ask why he was not talking then, thought that he was like listening, but it seems to have killed at any moment. Then she asked how he relates to bread, because she took a little from the kitchen, feeling as if she had fed a wandering dog. At that very moment, the guy stared at bread with greedy eyes. It was clear that he was deprived of food, and now he was hungry. She did not understand why he was behaving like a dog. If the questions have passed too, she understands. And now, in consciousness, suddenly he choked on, and Liana began to drink it with water, screaming that he would choke if he would swallow food. After a couple of seconds, Dorian blushed sharply and looked away, politely asked the girl to remove her hand. Liana was surprised, after which she smiled, saying that he was drinking so well from her hands, and now, for some reason, he was embarrassed. The guy was dumbfounded by such speeches, after which he asked not to touch him, or she would be responsible for it. Turning away her head, Liana, with an awkward smile, thought that someone else would bear the responsibility, and this is clearly not her. More precisely, the main character, beautiful, kind, which I will free him from prison, in general, an ideal girl. Thanks to her, she may not worry that he would become attached to her, when suddenly Liana thought she was too dark. Prisoners of central prisons bathe in luxury. They are almost always available tasty food, tea drinking, and walks. Everything is done in such a way as to cause inconvenience only to the main character of the novel, because it is unlikely that he dreamed of such a life. Suddenly, she asked if it seemed to him that it was bad here. There is no sunlight, and even very damp. The rest of the prisoners go for a walk once a day, though not paradise on the street. There is fresh air, and he is sitting here. Then Liana decided to ask again. He would not want to go for a walk, because this is the norm for an ordinary criminal. For her, some go boring and monotonously, but inconvenience, and he is doomed to suffer until the main character appears. As if not understanding anything, Dorian decided to ask in response that this, hinting that he has no idea about walking. I replied that it was when you go out and go there. The guy replied that he could not go out, but this was not about that. When asked, he would like to take a walk, if he could. He answered in silence, and Liana took it as a sign of consent. However, she still does not have a plan, because the caretaker must give permission for a walk, otherwise her plan will not be embodied. She heard that it was not so easy to get to him, even if you make a request to meet, but at least see it once. The girl hoped that she would not be detained, only because she was in the underground compartment for no reason. When she went to the office, she told the guard that she requested a meeting, after which she uncertainly called her name. When the guy let her inside, the girl sighed in surprise, not expecting that everything seems easier than she expected. When the girl entered the office, she was surprised to notice that there was no one, deciding that he might have left for a short while. Liana could not believe that for the sake of such a thing, she requested a meeting with the caretaker, as if it were something high. She knew that there was one huge and indestructible system by which this place is managed. First, the hierarchy is guarded, consisting of knights of low and medium ranks, which only fulfills orders. Above them, the imperious knight managers. Then there are management personnel, and the most important of them is the head of the prison. He also plays one of the main roles of history. He will unite with the Duke Dormulite and will help him. A side story will be described for what, if she remembers correctly, he was in love with some girl. The character was popular with women because he was a pure guy, but with a villainous character. Suddenly, someone entered the office and asked who was here. Liana asked if he had a meeting too. Then she introduced herself, explaining that she was here to meet with the head of the prison, but immediately froze. She could not understand what Renag Taus Valtes, a secondary character and one of the country's marquises, is doing here. But also, as it turned out, he was a prison overseer. A man in a serious tone stated that he heard that she wanted to see him. She tried with her to show that she was surprised, pretending that she always knew everything, and then said that she had a request. Then the girl asked if all the prisoners of this prison had equal rights. Renag replied that at first glance, yes. Liana was surprised that he was not crafting at all. One would think that she had already lost. But this is far from the case. From this moment on, her main argument for permission is in progress, which was supposed to help her succeed. According to the rules, if the prisoner is not convicted of a serious criminal offense, he has the right to walk. When she dangled with other prisoners, She found out that a lone guy was in the central prison dungeon. They say that there are not even windows in his cell. Renag tensed, uncertainly answering that they have such a prisoner. Liana added that she heard that he was not allowed to go for walks, but he did not commit criminal offenses. Looking at her with a severe gaze, the man asked if she wanted to say that she was sorry for this prisoner. She was afraid of his evil gaze, but she answered in the affirmative, adding that she came here to discuss this. Suddenly, Renag said that she was a very kind person. The girl was surprised, because of which she was a little confused with excitement. She said that when she hears this about people, she always recalls her younger brother, so she cannot pass by. The overseer asked if he was akin to her younger brother. Liana also agreed in surprise. She did not know if she had a younger brother, but the nobles even consider the relatives of the fifth and sixth knee close. The fact that this is precisely Dorian should not interfere, and hardly anyone can suspect the connection between them. After all, the relationship between Dorian and Renaga worsened only when the main villain appeared. Kaiser. Liana asked to let the poor fellow go out with fresh air, knowing that he would certainly refuse. But when she heard an affirmative answer, she was shocked, and Renag promised to take into account her request. Liana was dumbfounded that everything turned out so simple, because it was confident that he would refuse and would not want to listen to her. The man confidently stated that for the sake of her brother and father, he would do everything she wishes, despite the risks. The girl shuddered, not realizing what all this means. However, she tried not to show a look and agreed with his words. At the moment, Dorian is caught as a dangerous criminal, but it cannot be such that Renag does not know about it. However, the question arose why he was ready to go to this, because of his father and brother. The problem was that she did not know about the family. The question arose of who they are and what they are doing that, thanks to them, she can ask for any overcome. Liana thoughtfully suggested that she had an influential family with whom even the chief of prison behaves kindly. Renag said that a medium-rank knights will certainly be presented to this criminal during walks. Her brother asked to take any measures in accordance with her requests, so he could not ignore it. Their meeting was over, and he held it, while Liana tried to realize that it was only because of some request. When the man brought her to the door, he stopped and politely kissed her hand, as if she was an honorary guest. Then he stated that even if he had not made a promise to her brother, he would still fulfill her request as it should be. When the girl went out into the corridor, she heard Renag finally said that he was looking forward to a new meeting. However, Liana heard a threat in these words, thinking that he would kill her if she once again appeared on his threshold. On trembling legs, she trudged into the cell, thinking that she would definitely not stand another meeting with him. The next day, it was not possible to use permission, since the rain poured like a bucket all day. In the end, the image of the kindest lady was not needed, and the overseer did not seem to understand that she knew him, and this is good. Liana decided that enough to think about it. The main thing is that in the end, she received what she wanted even easier than expected. A little later, she again came to see Dorian. The guard was surprised that she had come to him today. Suddenly, Hans warned that it is dangerous today, so it should be careful, because the prisoner is troubled. Liana thanked him for the warning, after which she found a lot of puddles on the floor. It was because of the rain. Feeling the smell of mold, the girl shuddered when she heard an evil roar, thinking that he was more aggressive than usual. Then she drew attention to Dorian, realizing that he was scared of water, looking at how he trembled with the sound of drops. Liana knew where the guy got such a fear of water, since his father always said that he was a shame on their family and an ordinary dog. Dorian was all the time tortured with water, as a result of which the fear of water developed, as well as a feeling of worthlessness. The main character should be released from this, but it was not known when she would arrive and save him from here. And he realizes how strong. At that very moment, she covered him with a towel and asked if he liked the bell. The guy was surprised when the girl smiled and rang into the bell, saying that it was much better than the sound of rain. Then she began to pour sweets in her hands, saying that she brought this, thinking that he might like this. Looking at his contented face, Liana thought that it was good that she brought a lot, because he had enough for him for a long time. The girl began to wipe his head with a towel, saying that he was all wet, so she will dry him a little. Suddenly, she thought that in such damp she could get sick, and suddenly the guy waved his hand in front of her face. Liana fell on her back. Not understanding anything, feeling the pain, she tried to breathe air and open her eyes. Suddenly, she saw a rose on Dorian's chest. They say about her that you need to find a couple until your rose has faded. The girl thought that wrong thoughts were visiting her, after which it seemed to her that he had become even closer. When the awareness of what was happening reached Dorian, he sharply bounced back, embarrassedly asking what it was. Liana decided to quarrel, and smiling, replied that he had to ask him, because he was the first to reach for her. The guy blushed, after which he covered his mouth with a towel, said that the blanket was warm, so he was no longer scared. Assessing that everything is in order with him, the girl said that she would already go, when suddenly Dorian decided to ask her name. Having named her name, the girl left the camera, waving her hand in parting, while the guy looked after her with admiration. A few days later, the rain continued to go, while Liana decided to stop meeting with Dorian for a while. Sitting in her cell, the girl looked behind the bars, asking herself when the rain would finally end and the sun comes out. She still cannot go from what happened that day, but this was not the only reason. She stopped going to Dorian due to the fact that she recently had not received a single letter and parcel. I didn't even receive a letter with an explanation. The first thing she saw in front of her, opening her eyes, is a letter from her brother. She asked for something, and in response to her letter, always came the desired and new pure sheet for wishes. The girl did not even immediately realize that a certain brother of Liana sent these handouts, about whom she even knows nothing. And now she had nothing more to bribe security, since the letters no longer came, which made it very difficult to meet. Typically, the letter was at best on the second day of the month, and at worst for the fifth. But 12 days have passed. Perhaps something happened to her brother, or she asked too much, because of which she began to annoy with her requests. The next day, Liana was still thinking about this, when suddenly the fit of the Paladis asked if she had something. The girl replied that nothing special, after which she asked what interesting it is he wants to talk this time. He asked if she had heard about the Countess of Andrea. It was a woman who, during a rim of hysteria, fainted. The man replied that it was not just an attack. At that moment, she received a news that Count Andrea was dead. As it turned out, the Duke Dormelet was directly to blame for everything, because it was beneficial to him, like no other. Liana did not understand, and here the main villain, the Pilatus, explained that the Count of Andrea was the right hand of the Archduke Henry. The girl knew that the red rose is Henry and the black rose Dormelite, enemies with a very long and bloody history of enmity. Count Andrea was on the side of the relative of the protagonist, while the second side is the side of the main villain. The deep hatred of the parties is reinforced by the struggle for the heart of the main character, after which the confusion begins. As a result, the Shazer kills the father of Dorian, his supporters and friends, on which the conflict of the two families ends. It is funny that Dorian did not care about his father, but he still hated Chemiser and made him his enemy. The author will definitely play with the relationships of the characters. At first it will be fun, and then quite the opposite. The Pilatus added that the Shazer is very smart, but he can't even believe that he committed such stupidity as the murder of the Count. Archduke Henry, without even setting a commotion, immediately ordered the knight to get evidence for Dormelet. At that very moment, the man solemnly stated that Chemister was now wanted and was hiding somewhere. Liana thought that he was already considering the plan in some secluded place, but most likely he had already thought out everything. Suddenly, the guard's loud voice said that the time was over, and all prisoners should disperse the cameras. Rising, the Pilatus asked what happened to her. You replied that you did not receive a letter from the family, although you were really waiting. The man realized that we were talking about a letter from his brother, after which he said that perhaps something urgent happened. Lying in her cell, Liana decided that even her family left her. But what she then did after leaving prison? Meanwhile, a Shizé, who was sitting in front of two bodies covered with blood, said with a smile that he missed the vine. The next day, when the girl went into the living room, Pilatus immediately ran up to her, saying that fresh news had come. The offender, who settled the discord in the family of Count Andrea, is definitely, and the Duke of Henry is currently seriously wounded. His guesses were faithful. The culprit, Chaser Dormelet, even if he did not act on his own, through someone. Suddenly, Liana recalled that before she killed Dorian's father, Chaser made several attempts to attempt. The old man suffered from the consequences for some time until his last attack finally took his life. And if she is not mistaken, this event will happen very soon. But even no one even guesses about it. Pilatus said that it was good that the criminal was Dormalite, because in their prison there are a lot of Kaiser supporters. If he is suspected of committing a crime, the whole crowd of followers will break off the chain and a rebellion will begin. Then he added that the hiding duke finally returned. He would like to once meet him. Suddenly, he noticed that the girl was left her place. Liana, with a smile, said that she had to go somewhere. Then she asked why he wanted to meet with him, because she would even prefer not to see him from afar. The girl explained that, in any case, it seems to her that it was not so easy to see him. The man agreed with her. A few minutes later, Liana overtook the guard in the corridor, after which he held out her hand, in which the letter lay. The girl thought that this was a pleasant surprise, because usually sheets are empty, but this time something was written. Entering the camera, Liana began to read a letter where there was only one question. How was the road, sister? She was surprised by the brief content, noticing a beautiful handwriting, after which she decided that she needed to answer. After thinking a little, Liana again decided to ask to send more alcohol, cigarettes, and luxury items. Having received a letter, his brother immediately ordered to send alcohol to Kambraki, but more, because the desire to sister is a law. The next day, the rain finally stopped. It was very good, but Liana was clearly doing something wrong. Now she was in the office of the head of the prison with a fork and a knife in her hand, glancing at the delicious sweets. Renag asked if she wanted, but she replied that he would try everything now, asking herself why she was all. 10 minutes ago, they told her that the overseer was looking for her, but upon her arrival, she was waiting for an unexpected and pleasant surprise. The girl asked why he called her. At that very moment, he opened the box and said that gifts had arrived for her. She asked if this was from her brother, to which she heard a disgusting answer, although she thought that he was supposed to send not this. With a serious look, the man said that her older brother also recalled that one could not reveal his last name. Liana thought with surprise that now it is clear why everyone was calling her by name, but it is not clear why it was. She thanked him for his care, because she is sure that her brother and father were also very grateful. Renag was surprised. He stated that she was very good, unlike them. The girl considered such a statement offensive, but said nothing. Liana thought she had to smile, after which she stated that they were actually good and caring people. Renag said that the rain stopped, so the prisoner she spoke about will soon go out for a walk. But, as agreed, with knights attached to him, hearing this, the girl immediately replied that she understood everything. In response to this, the overseer smiled, and Liana did not expect that someday she could see his smile. However, it seemed to her that he was hinting that she ate everything to the last crumb, or soon could never smile. Going into the corridor, she was surprised to think that in the plot in front of her lover, he would be that still a darling. The next day, Sally pulled himself up and said that the weather was too good, and they had not walked for a long time. She decided that it was possible to sunbathe, and Liana said with a smile that even with a tan, she would look great. Suddenly, the girl stopped smiling and pointed behind her, asking that the knights of the elite regiment had forgotten here. She heard that they were substituted only for especially dangerous criminals, apparently this boy among them. When they pushed Dorian, Sally decided that this was not a walk, after which she decided to ask the knights about everything. Liana thought with discontent that it could hardly be called a walk, because it was no better than sitting in the cell. Suddenly, she noticed that he was looking in her direction, but at the same moment the guy blushed and, embarrassed, turned away. The girl was shocked that he ignored her. At that time, Sally went up to her and said that she had returned. She went to the knights. They only replied that he was involved in a crime with the use of magic. At that very moment, she looked at Liana and asked why she suddenly began to look so irritated. The girl thought that she tried so hard for him, and in the end, ignore, so you need to go and find out what was the matter. When she caught up with him, she asked why he blushed and was on her knees, because she even did nothing. Suddenly, the guy grabbed his cheeks and asked if she wanted to say something that he would do something with him because of this. When Liana, as I realized that everything was in order with him, she replied that if he did not want to explain, then it was not necessary. Suddenly, Dorian grabbed her hand, and with an impending gaze asked why she did not come to him for so long. Dorian almost cried when he said that he was waiting for her, but she still did not come, and he decided that she left him forever. Liana did not want to say to him that she simply had nothing left to pay for the passage, since her brother did not send anything. The guy asked if the last time she came here, the girl asked in response, where he got it. She felt that his hands were trembling. Perhaps he was so afraid to remain abandoned by everyone again. Rubbing her neck from hopelessness, she asked herself how to remain indifferent to him. The girl asked if he liked the walk, because she was her merit, and she worthy of getting a little thanks. After that, she began to wipe his tears, offering the next time to go for a walk together, so that he was calmer. From such close contact, Dorian blushed and asked what to call her. She replied that she could be called by name. Suddenly, she stated that she would wake up to walk him, then let her call the mistress, but immediately clarified that she was joking. Then she said that she had to, asking not to dare to ignore her anymore, after which she went to the exit with a smile. The next day, the guard greeted Liana, asking if she requested a joint walk with the prisoner. Then he said with a smile that it was very nice of her to take care of such a dangerous criminal. The girl went to the guy and greeted, after which she asked if it was convenient for him. He replied that everything was fine. She dared to suggest that everyone here believes that Dorian was convicted of using the forbidden magic. Nevertheless, only Renag knows about his personality. As a friend, she paid attention to his wrists. These were unusual shackles. At that very moment, the knight asked if she was curious, after which he pulled the rope, pulled Dorian. He explained that these shackles against criminals with magic, and the rope on them suppresses any mana. Liana smiled and thanked for the explanation, thinking that this guard was a frantic crazy person because it hurts him. The man said that she should not show this. Nevertheless, the scene is not just for seeing, especially for a noblewoman. The girl continued to smile, but inside herself was very angry at the guard who behaved like that. She decided to ask if he was in order, after which she looked at Dorian and immediately realized that something was wrong. Suddenly, the guy rushed forward, after which he hit one guard with all his strength, knocking him down. When everyone noticed his embittered expression, they immediately stated that he had a seizure and something needs to be done with it. The knights asked the lady to move away, as the prisoner had a jump in mana, but it is necessary to remain calm. Anton, the captain of the guard, ordered the rope to activate. Another guard immediately pulled it, ordering him to stop. But nothing happened, which is why the guy screamed worriedly that the rope did not work and could not stop him. He tried several times to stop Dorian while he fought with the knights, but everything was in vain. Suddenly, the prisoner waved his hand, throwing the guard towards his comrades, surprising all his strength. Liana barely had time to dodge when the flying knight rushed past her, while the others tried to stop him. She thought that the main character is an innocent puppy, and he is a real beast, but it is not clear whether he is in order. Suddenly, the girl discovered that right under her was the same rope, which she immediately grabbed. She doubted that this would work, but Anton was surprised to notice that the magic shackles were working again. Then, the man with an orderly tone asked her to order him to stop, but the girl was too scared. At that very moment, Dorian seemed to look at her, and she did not understand what kind of gaze that he had just looked at her. From fright, she fell when the guy ran sharply at her, and the guard loudly asked her to just shout the team. She could not do this, and was already ready to accept her fate, when suddenly someone knocked Dorian from his feet. Someone ordered him to sit while Liana thought that he was not a real dog, and such orders would not work. Meanwhile, Anton loudly asked everyone not to lose vigilance, and continue to give the commands until he calmed down. At that very moment, the girl pulled the rope and began to give him various teams that he began to fulfill. Liana tried to understand what was happening at all, because it was not mentioned about such a novel, and Dorian continued to somersault. The knights watched them with the same surprise, trying to understand what kind of stupid situation this situation unfolded. The girl ordered him to sit, after which she loudly asked not to scratch his ear with her foot, asking who taught him this. She had a panic when she asked herself at what point the main character really became a dog. Then she realized that she had a real talent for training dogs, although it was an ordinary guy. One of the guards asked if she was a witch, but she answered if he would be here if she were a witch. Liana thought that happiness was nearby, because only the extra spectators were not enough for this performance. Suddenly, Dorian pulled her sleeve and pulled plaintively. The girl decided to give him a couple more teams. She did not understand why the protagonist became completely like a beast, because this was not described in the book. At that very moment, the knight again approached her, said that she needed to meet with the overseer Stuart. However, now he is not in place, so now it is better for her to return to herself when he appears. She will be taken to him. Liana replied that she understood everything, after which she asked with interest what they would do with this prisoner. And the guards first should find out why the shackles did not work. The girl asked if something like that happened before. He replied that they first use data of equipment, but he never heard interruptions. If you think about it, she feels weak in the morning and suffocates a little. Perhaps this is somehow connected. Noticing her strange expression, Anton asked if she was in order. She smiled and answered in the affirmative. Suddenly, when the knight came too close, Dorian hugged Liana from behind, after which he began to growl to the guard. The girl with a displeased look removed his hand, after which she ordered to lie, and the guy immediately completed the order. Anton said with a smile that he had to lead him back into the cell, after which he asked if she would help with this. She did not really like this idea, but she agreed, after which she noticed how Dorian pressed her hand. When they returned to the cell, Hans asked her to return more. She agreed, and then went to Dorian. Sitting in front of the guy, she hugged her knees, and without looking at him, sincerely asked for forgiveness for what had happened. She did not know that things would take such a turn when she asked him to pull him out into the street to take a little walk. Having lowered her head, she asked if he liked at least a little bit, expecting him to condemn her for this idea. She did not know how, under those circumstances, he could like, but maybe she experienced one positive emotion. Then she went up and stroked his head, and the guy said that he liked it. She did not need to apologize. He asked not to look so closely, and the girl said that she thought when his mind would return to him. Liana smiled and asked not to be careful in relation to her. She still helped with his riot today. The girl decided to ask if he remembers everything that was happening to him in the beast mode. He replied that, in general, yes. Blinding and look away, Dorian said that he did not remember only minor details, but otherwise everything is clearly. Remember what I did when I got with the dog. It's like the next morning after a booze to remember what I did yesterday. Then the girl came closer to him and asked if it was that he wants to continue walking with her. Having covered him with a blanket, she added that she was glad that she was not mistaken in her actions, after which she asked her to smile. Seeing his embarrassed gaze, Liana asked if he liked it when she touches, and whether she was touching her. Rubber even harder, Dorian said that he was satisfied with everything, after which he asked to promise that she would come again. Turning away, Liana replied with malice that she would not promise anything, because now he wants a lot. At the same time, in the capital, where the Renaga cabinet was located, the man read a report that the prisoner was wounded by Liana. The frightened subordinate replied that this was not entirely true, because according to the report, the girl was just tired. Dissatisfied with such an explanation, the man slammed loudly on the table, after which he asked him to immediately explain. But before he had time to open his mouth, when suddenly a knight entered the office, announcing that Chairman Love Dormelit had arrived at him. Renag has noticeably tensed, after which he replied that he himself would meet him, in addition to asking to send Liana of drugs. Before leaving, he asked to remake his schedule so that in a few days he could return. A few days later, Liana was on the street while walking with Dorian, and asked him to catch the ball. When the guy returned with the ball in his mouth, the girl stroked his head, after which she called him smart. He likes to get praise, while Liana remembered how she was asked if she could help in walks. They have not yet found other ways to contain, and walks should continue on an ongoing basis. Although after all that turmoil, she thought they would cancel the walks. But I was glad that this did not happen. Pulling Dorian by the cheek, Liana thought that the order was by order, but this still delivered a lot of problems to guard. Although they could forget that Dorian is a man, not a relationship with him as a dog that needs to be walked. In the end, she agreed to help, and now she was next to Dorian, surrounded by knights. Anton came up to her and thanked for his help, added that he would put a word to the caretaker about her merits. By the way, he mentioned that he would jump up to them today. Liana was surprised, because she was just thinking about meeting Renag. As a friend, Dorian pulled her sleeve, who woke up today quite early, and looked very embarrassed. She invited him to sit down next to her because it is not very convenient to sit on Earth, even being a dog. Without wasting time, the guy jumped up, after which he sat down right on her knees, because of which he blushed and was embarrassed even more. Liana stated that she had in mind to sit nearby. Dorian shuddered, after which he loudly apologized to her for it. The guy said that today it was somehow cool, after which he grabbed the girl by the hand and changed with her places. Once on his knees, Liana laughed and asked that he thought out, calling him a cunning. At the same time, Renag, who watched them, was asked if he should go to the teachings today. He replied that he was already walking, after which he turned and went away from the place where the guy and the girl were. A little later, the girl was already in the office of the overseer, who politely offered her a cup of tea. The man said that he was surprised when he was told that she made a real pet out of the prisoner. Liana was shocked by such a statement, when she suddenly heard the question if she and her brother were happening here. By answering negatively, she added that she did not think that he is in the know, and even does not know about how she lives. In the fantasies of Liana, brother probably thinks that she is now an alcoholic, since she only asks for alcohol and cigarettes. She does not even know her relatives, and will be able to find out about it only by leaving prison, but not earlier. Renag said that if she did not change his mind about her desire, then walks will be allowed in the future. The girl was surprised, because the prisoner arranged a membrane, but the man replied that all because she wants it. To rub or smile, said that he was still amazed that she treated him like a dog. Liana mentally asked if he had fun, because he did not forget to ask about the opinion of her brother, whom she did not know. It seems that he considers it to be granted that literally everyone treats Dorian without proper respect. The girl said that, not to say that between her families and this prisoner, a particularly good relationship. Renag agreed, because he was also not poorly surprised that she was really interested in marriage in the name of the union. The girl froze. I do not understand what it is about, although he knows that at the moment the nobles of the empire are divided into two groups, and the Henrik fraction, to which the family of Henry and their followers belong, as well as the faction of the main villain. Renag as a representative of his family on the neutral side, but as a person supports the Dormulites. She was strange to hear this, and even from Renag. Now for Liana, this looked too outrageous. Suddenly, she realized with horror that the Liana family belongs to the Dormulit faction, that is, the main villain. While the girl was in complete shock, Renag asked with interest how to spend her time prisoners. The man explained that if she likes informal conversations, he can also arrange such with her alone. A little later, walking along the corridor, Liana thought that he did not understand what exactly he had in mind. Meanwhile, Renag could not believe that he had offered such a vines, because it was he who in love with her in love. He previously told her that he hopes that she would be comfortable with them, because the most important thing is her safety. And while she remembers this, she can do everything that she wants, without fear of any punishment or something like that. Liana did not expect that there are so many supporters of Dormulit in prison, that it was obviously not very good for Dorian. It turns out that the Liana family also belongs to the side of the villains, and now many inexplicable things have become clear. Now it is clear why Renag is condescending to her. Despite his nature, they are also comrades in atrocities. But good always wins evil, so you can already write a will, because it is unlikely to be a winner. Looking out the window, the girl noticed that it was raining again. It was like some kind of misfortune that interfered with her. Dorian probably sits again and tremble. She thought that maybe she would look at him for a while to calm him down. When Liana reached the place, she froze with surprise, feeling something unusual near his camera. She could not understand what was happening, feeling an unusually strange atmosphere, but there was nowhere to retreat. When she came up, Hans met her, greeted the girl. He explained that another visitor was ahead of her today. Liana asked worriedly, "Something bad happened," after which she began to glance towards the camera. The guard said that she would better refuse to visit, but she replied that everything was in order, because everything would remain secret. Hans was ambiguously at the cigarettes that Liana handed him, simultaneously saying that she could be trusted. Then she went to the camera, feeling that from there was some kind of smell that was very caustic. When the girl went inside, it was shocked, seeing Dorian lying on the floor in a pool of her own blood. Liana called him, and the guy immediately heard her, after which he looked at her with a smile and yelled joyfully. She remembered that in the book, there was a mention that the protagonist was often subjected to violence by his father. It was clear that he was here, after which she passed through the barrier, and Dorian rushed at her with his arms. Liana reciprocated, hugging him, and thinking that it is impossible to leave him like that, because now he is very painful. The guards will definitely not provide medical care. Pushing him away, she asked the guy to wait a bit. The girl ran to her camera, simultaneously trying to understand what to do, because she has no medicine. When she arrived at the place, she immediately realized that her only way out was to write a letter to her brother to help. She can't and does not want to go to others, so now he can hope that he can answer as quickly as possible. She briefly stated in a letter so that her brother would send more medicines that are suitable for the treatment of various wounds. Surprisingly and fortunately, after a few days, everything arrived, and she received much more than she asked. Hans said that he would miss her with this, but before that, he decided to ask the question why she was taking care of him so much. Liana did not understand how it could be otherwise, because she could not just look at how this person suffers. When she went inside, she sighed heavily, because she did not want to see Dorian in such a meager position. At that very moment, the guy rose from the floor, asking who came to him. Lena replied that Dorian recognized her. Suddenly, the girl noticed that her eyes were damaged, and this is an unusual wound, and it is not known whether the medicine would help. Crouching in front of him, she said that she came to heal him. It may hurt, but will have to suffer a little. After 10 minutes, Liana wiped under her forehead, thinking that she wiped all the blood, although it took a lot of time. Now she had to apply a healing ointment, after which she asked the guy to let the guy know if she was hurt. Suddenly she smiled, adding that there is no sense in this, because she still would not stop applying her. A little later, Dorian looked much better and nicer, with girlish plasters and hairpins, asking why she laughs. With an awkward look, the girl replied that all because he was more beautiful than she, but Dorian said that it was not true. He wanted to add something else, but he stumbled, while Liana and the cunning decided to clarify whether she was more beautiful. This made the guy turn red, but the girl decided to throw his jokes to the side, asking him to look at her. Having examined it, she thought that she had applied everything well, but the question remained what to do with the rest of the medicines. There were even medicines for colds and even burns. She asked for the treatment of wounds, but her brother sent everything that was possible. He seemed to Liana very caring, because of which she felt that the level of attachment to him grew greatly. Then she turned towards Dorian and said that she had almost completed treatment. Only her shoulders and neck remained. When the girl touched his chest, she asked to stop breathing so hard, but did not know whether she could touch her here. A little earlier, Cheeser, that he was sitting in his office, read a letter to Liana, who asked to send medicines for the wounds. Putting the letter to his face and breathing in his aroma, he asked himself, maybe he would look in Cambers sometimes. And now Liana, who touched the wounds on Dorian's chest, with an awkward look asked to stop making these sounds already. Wiping sweat from her forehead, the girl said that they had finally finished, and he only had to drink painkillers. The guy with a surprised look asked whether it was necessary to take the medicine when it was bad. She was shocked by this question. Then she began to explain that first, to pick up the glass, swallow the pill, and then drink water. But even after the instructions, Dorian did not succeed in taking a pill, since he did not understand how to do it. But it is necessary to teach him this. So she grabbed a bottle from his hands to slightly change the tactics. Liana said that it is so. For the first time she would help him, since he does not go out to do it on his own. She asked him to open his mouth, but carefully, adding that he could press her finger a little so that it was convenient. With a smile, the girl said that now she would put a pill on the back of his mouth, and you can't spill it out. Looking at his embarrassed reaction, the girl grabbed him by the cheeks, after which she asked to go out on her, surprising Dorian. Suddenly pulled away, asking him to forget, and then asked if he drank all the water, asking him to give her a bottle. Understanding her inappropriate behavior, she stated that she went, after which she wished him recovery and left. Dorian sadly asked her to wait, but she apologized. I will explain that today it should go early. The next day, she sat on the bench, trying to understand why she did this yesterday, and what she found on her. Bending a little, she decided that she had to think about something else, about something good that she would distract her. Suddenly, she noticed that in the letter, there was a note from her brother, whom she found far from right away, which was strange. There, with a quick handwriting, the question was whether his dear sister was sick. He always worries about her and misses her very much. And in the end, there was a question whether he should visit her. Liana was dumbfounded by the fact that he could come to her. Prisoners usually do not get along with families, because as a rule, they are to blame for people get here. She remembered how Sally said that when she got out of here, she would definitely give up his brother. Some reconciled with the fact of legend here, and some did not. There was a place for both anger and acceptance. The prisoners experience such feelings for relatives. Perhaps the brother behaves cute to her because of pity. Then the girl asked herself with interest in what was originally her brother, and her brother was a relationship before her hit here. While she was talking to herself, she did not notice that behind her, someone was hiding behind a tree and followed her. A month later, Dorian's wounds were completely cured, so Liana once again decided to visit the guy. Each time he was very glad to see her. The girl said that today he brought him the cookies that he liked. Suddenly, she noticed that the seal on his neck looks more than usual, but does not know why. Almost 3 months have passed from her first meeting with the main positive hero, but whether the seal will become even more. When one cookies fell to the floor, Dorian tried to eat him, but Liana immediately stopped him, closing her mouth with her hand. She explained that this should not be eaten, asking Dorian to try to preserve the remnants of his human dignity. Seeing that the guy was upset, she asked not to build her eyes here, because he would not achieve anything at all. Suddenly, she showed him a book, asking him to see what she has, and offering to engage in his development. To begin with, it will be reasonable to simply say words with him. He still does not know how to read. But he continued to bark. Unable to stand it, the girl began to stretch his cheeks, saying that he was not even trying to do anything. Then she decided to calculate his fairy tale, starting to tell that the girl met her damned prince. The prince bit the dragon, after which his face turned black. His clothes caught fire with a bright flame, like a huge torch. Looking at his reaction, she was surprised that a couple of minutes ago he could barely sit still. Now he listened carefully. She continued, saying that the girl asked the prince whether he was sick with him. He replied that nothing hurts. Then the girl cried because of the prince's words. Ask what the principal is feeling now. He probably hides his pain. After that, the girl defeated the evil dragon. Then she took the prince by the hand of his curse. There was no trace. If you think about it, Dorian is a prince from this fairy tale, only not locked in a castle, but in a cage, which was a little worse. And their main character is this fallen aristocrat, that he will also get rid of curses with his princess. Then she decided to ask if he knew that she has an older brother who would soon come to the prison to visit her. She was wondering if he would be as sympathetic as Dorian, once bad, then hope that at least beautiful. She really was very interested in how he looks, but Dorian probably should not be acquainted with him. Having asked the guy to eat the last cookie, she suggested that her brother would pull her out. They would just make a visit. Then she got to her feet, with a smile that she had to go, after which she said goodbye to the guy with cookies in her mouth. At that moment, her thoughts were only about her brother, while Dorian looked sadly at the girl who was moving away from him. She herself wondered when she could get out of this prison, because she does not even know what she was sitting for. A few days later, the device promised to visit her, but so far this did not happen, which was why Liana began to worry. Really, these were only words. Recently, she cannot think about anything else, except for this promise. Noticing the puddle, she looked at her reflection, saying that if outwardly he looked like her, then he just handsome. Still, Liana is really beautiful, but it cannot be such that she is the only beautiful family member. In general, the villain does not go with pink hair, so it turns out that Liana has passed safety standards. Suddenly, she looked down, deciding that she needed to lower her expectations, because anything can be expected from her brother. He was not nearby when Liana's heart stopped fighting. For the first time in this body, she opened her eyes in a prison infirmary. The body of Liana was so weak that after the words about a heart attack, she immediately fainted from the shock. And only a few hours later, she opened her eyes again, after which she found that she was already in a prison cell. Interestingly, after an attack, she was never bad, and the girl discussed for a long time about this situation. After awakening, she immediately realized that the real Liana had died, as if someone had whispered to her in her ear. At the same moment, she thought that just continued to live as if nothing had happened, waiting for the end of the deadline. There was a feeling that something incredible outside her prison was waiting for her, and this feeling still does not leave her. Suddenly, someone approached her from behind and said that she looked bored. Raising her head, Liana saw the guy. She saw him for the first time, and the color of his shape was a different color. He said that he was concluded from another building. If you look at this, then prisoners are really many times more today than usual, which is understandable. The guy in glasses asked not to be afraid, because he did not intend to harm her, after which he introduced himself to Grrrr. The girl shuddered while the guy said that he wanted to meet her somehow, and this moment came. Liana immediately found out about the secondary character of the book, because it was he who helped Dorian escape from prison. The girl looked at the guard, and Grrrr said that she looks very tense, asking to relax. A lot of security went on a business trip with the overseer, so there is almost no surveillance for a walk. He was surprised that she was shugging him, explaining that the head of their corps personally selects people who can be left. Cutting himself with an index finger on the forehead, the guy added that therefore only adequate people can be chosen. Before that, he saw her only from afar. By the way, he really liked watching a person's training. Liana was suspicious to keep him a distance, answering that she was not available for other buildings. Grrrr said that he did not want to disclose this, but recently he fled from prison for a while, and then he saw. In the novel, Grrrr was not just a left-handed man that he helped Dorian escape. His role was much more. He was his right hand and a faithful assistant who pretended to be a criminal exclusively for the accomplishment of the plan. But first of all, he is the supreme mage from the Grrrrs, who was here on a special task. The guy said that he was sincerely interested in her when he saw that strange young man, and in fact, he is a sorcerer. He suggested that she knows about the tendency of sorcerers to pay attention to various curious things for them. Liana asked, "Are not the magicians in a separate prison? And if he is true a magician, he would not have a torn about it." At that very moment, Grrrr leaned toward her and asked her whisper why he would not. Because no one except her knows this. From this second, the guard will not remember anything that happened in the last 5 minutes, because he took care of them. He will simply tell her something fun about the prisoner, about which she experiences and spends time with him. Looking at him, Liana thought that the novel described that the character of this person was not as simple as it seems. Grrrr said that there is a curse that turns him into a beast. It is old. Ordinary people did not even hear about this. The few know about the curse of the family of Henry. It is clear why he explains to her, but she already knows everything about it. The girl decided to take interest mentally asks why he tells her about it. Grrrr added that when he becomes an animal, he could not say a word like a human, and this is inconvenient. So he often gives awakening to those who suffer from such curses as a temporary measure of treatment. Naturally, he takes responsibility for this. Liana asked why she had this information. The guy realized that she was interested. He continued, saying that based on his long observations, her prisoner had not yet awakened to the end. If nothing is done, he will sow chaos on a permanent basis by turning into a monster without realizing it. Then the girl realized that he could not talk normally, not because of a long stay outside the society, but in the book, even in the guise of a monster, but still spoke human language. Perhaps this is because of Grrrr. The girl asked what he wants from her, because she doubts that he came to just talk about Dorian's diagnosis. The guy replied that he was a curious girl, and he wants her to satisfy his magical interest. Grrrr answered with a smile in the affirmative, adding that he is a magician, that he knows the medicine for the awakening of Dorian, and she is the one who should feed this medicine for the animal. Liana was dumbfounded and at the same time did not understand anything. He had not studied anything for so long that his hands were itching. At the same second, a ball of energy began to be created in his hands. Liana frowned, thinking that he was saying so, but he needed the spell to come to Dorian. However, now she did not understand why because she was sure that he had a lot of opportunities without it. The girl did not believe that the point was only that she was the most affordable option that would not refuse him help. And he was strangely aggressive, and she did not like it. So she asked why she would do this. Leaning closer, The guy whispered with a smile that then he could fulfill any request in return. The opportunity to enlist the help of a magician appears infrequently. A good magic spell is now worth its weight in gold. The girl thought that the deal is tempting, but whether she could really use this spell someday. She is sure that as soon as she leaves the prison, she will heal without worries and problems. So she decided to abandon the offer. But Gear asked to imagine how Dorian would stop eating from the floor, and in general, he would cease to cause problems. She realized that he could refuse me, and the guy explained what was needed for this spell to fall directly into it. He will lay him in the carrier, which she will have to feed him. Touching the prisoner, he is activated. Then he asked if she could give him a hand, after which he apologized, because they needed to come in touch for a short while. Liana was a little embarrassed and excited, said that he had prepared in advance, and he was sure that she would agree. Before the girl decided to ask a question, Jir replied that she realized this by a simple analysis method. When he finished, a seal appeared on her wrist. He added that the spell should be activated at night. Liana asked how she would do this, because not in her powers to be freely paced around the prison at night. Geir laughed, after which he asked her not to worry, because about this, he also thought everything in advance. After that, he put a bracelet into her hand, saying that she could calmly use this magical bracelet. He explained that this was his gift, and the girl asked how exactly he could help her in this complex business. Pointing to the wrist, Liana decided, just in case, to clarify whether this would hurt the prisoner directly. Jair replied that nothing was wrong. A sharp jump in growth can simply be observed, but after a while everything will return. Suddenly, he turned sharply, stated that he was already time, after which he added that they would still be seen. That same evening, being in her cell, the girl slowly rose from the bed, telling herself that she almost fell asleep. She understood that it was time to try to help their sleeping beauty to free him from the curse. She thought she loves to sleep very much. Even if someone decides to kidnap her during sleep, she would not wake up. So, if she needs to go somewhere late at night or early in the morning, then in principle, she does not go to bed. Earlier, she found out that the camera is guarded at night, but there is less security here than in the center. Hans added that this is a secret, but in the morning, there is almost no guard at all, since almost everyone is sleeping at this time. It was natural, because the nobles were accustomed to acting until late, and sleep exclusively in the daytime. Since there are no secular evenings in prison, they lie down early, but they wake up anyway late, then the guard is resting. There are 5 guards as much as possible here, but usually there are 4 of them, so you should use the bracelet at once. Geir gave her 3 spells, and the first was the invisibility spell, and the second was to open the locked doors. Now Liana was invisible and looked at 2 guards who walked calmly in her direction. Suddenly, one of them asked if he had heard something else now, but then he was sure that he made a sound. The colleague asked to stop breathing so hard, because he was too noisy, which is why something is wrong with them. Covering her mouth with her palm, Liana thought that she was standing right in front of them, but they didn't even see her point blank. The spell makes it so that she sees everything that surrounds her, while the surrounding does not see her at all. Suddenly, she noticed a familiar man, asking herself why, by the way, the overseer returned so early. Now in the capital is a very tense time, so it is not surprising that it is always on the trip. And at the same time, he visits the prison more and more often, but it was not clear why he needed it and what he was achieving. The guard also was terrified interestingly, because of what they asked each other, whether he was hiding treasure here. Noticing Renaga, the girl thought that I had to be very careful so as not to become in his way, and not collide. Liana noticed that Hans fell asleep, thought about him that he was a kind and pleasant man, while very calculating. It was he who neglected Dorian when he was wounded. At that very moment he woke up, felt someone else's presence. The girl immediately returned around the corner, a little scared. She hoped that he did not hear her when she was walking. When Liana came close to him, the man began to turn his head and ask if someone here is here. Handing over his hand to him, the girl thought that she had to be careful in using this type of magic. Direct contact may be enough for it to affect you. After which she touched his neck, and he trembled. A second later, the guard was already lying on the floor unconscious, and Liana thought that this part of the plan was successful. The last spell taught by Jair taught her, sleep spell, and now she felt a sorceress. But when the girl came close to the Dorian camera, she immediately shuddered when she heard the question of who is here. He did not suddenly spoke to her. She was even scared, although the invisibility spell is still actively. Liana took off her hood, destroying the spell, after which, with a smile, announced that it was she who came to visit him. The guy's stern face immediately softened when he said in surprise that he did not expect to see her at such a later time. Liana asked if he knew what time now. He replied that the sun had already sat down on the inner sensations. If you pay attention, you can understand that he is very smart and intelligent, although she did not immediately notice this. The girl said that she would love to talk with him longer, but you need to rush. It surprised Dorian. Opening a small bag that she brought with her, the girl said that she came here to give him something. Handing around, and she asked him to eat this, and something unusual will happen to him, in good terms. In her palm was a sealed candy that was a gift to Jira. She again asked him to eat it. It is very difficult for an ordinary person to meet a real magician, and the first time he would never believe it. In addition, Jir asked not to disclose Dorian all the details in order to leave a little mystery. Liana said that he would know everything after he eats. Suddenly the guy asked if he could. It immediately agreed. Unable to stand it, the girl asked loudly whether it was not interesting to him what it was and why he was. But he was not worried. Crossing her arms over her chest, she asked how to be so careless, because it was not even in confidence in her. Liana said that he should not just agree to everything that they offer, especially when it comes to food. With an uncertain look, Dorian replied that she herself said that it was safe, but it was not an indicator. Putting his hand on his chest, the guy said that he was sure that she would not harm him, then asked, or cause him. Having a look, Liana asked how he thinks, but still there is no need to trust anyone so blindly. Suppose today she is on your side, but who knows what will happen next time. But now, he needs to eat it. She asked Jira to sweeten her, because after the effect works, burning pain would make itself felt. We can say that she gave the child a candy before an injection. She was not now wondering if it was delicious. Touching his cheeks, the girl mentally asked why he trusts her like that, because it should not be so naive. Now she felt very strange. But now a spell needs to be pronounced in her head, so that everything would work. Having pronounced this word, at first nothing happened, when suddenly Doriana pierced some kind of power, because of which he fainted. Liana thought worried that Jir said that only a little would hurt, but now she did not know what to do. It was impossible to call the guard or take an anesthetic as soon as she decided to leave. The guy grabbed her hand. The girl remembered how Gir said with a smile that there was a small side effect, but these are all the little things. However, in fact, everything was far from the case. And now the guy with a completely confident look looked at the Liana. I leaned more closer to her. He asked if she avoids him, and where she was leaving, Liana invited to let go, but to no avail. At that very moment, Dorian, with a predatory gaze, began to gently kiss her palm, simultaneously not taking her eyes off her. Studently looking at the guy, Liana thought in shock that it was more like the main effects than side effects. Now she was sure that this is the Dorian about whom she read in the book, so he would look in 4 years. The girl again asked to let him go, but the guy, deprived of smiling, with a confident look, replied that he would not let her go. Liana did not come up with anything better than taking a bag and telling him that he is a good boy who loves cookies. Dorian completely ignored her proposal, asking what she should be called, because he forgot a little. Why did he remember that he should call her the mistress? Because of which the girl shuddered, answering that it wasn't necessary. Suddenly, she remembered that she really told him this, but she decided to never joke with him again. The girl asked to call her by name, after which she once again introduced herself, which caused a smile on the guy's face. Suddenly, he directed her hand towards the bag so that she took 1 cookies, after which he began to return her to him. Liana realized that he wanted her to feed him with his hands, because of which this picture looked very strange. Suddenly, the girl refused and looked away, explaining that she was painful when he holds her so tightly by the hand. She said that if he wants cookies, then he should let go, because only then she can give him to him. Looking at how pleasure the guy eats cookies from her hands, the girl asked him to stop smiling. Putting her hand to his cheek, Dorian, with malice, asked if he forbids him, because it is too tasty. Frowning, the girl replied that she did not like people who do whatever they please. When the guy let her go, Liana turned away from him, trying to understand what was happening at all and what to do. For seconds, her eyes widened in surprise when she felt that Dorian hugged her from behind tightly. Then he apologized to her, while the girl felt that her back was getting too hot. Suddenly, he said that his body hurts. Liana stated that if something hurts, he had to immediately say this. The smile disappeared from the guy's face when he said that no one had ever cared about him like her. Dorian unexpectedly kissed her on the cheek, asking if this means that this also belongs to him, like cookies. Suddenly, he collapsed again to the floor, and Liana tried to understand why he fainted and whether it was a side effect. She decided to carefully cover him with a blanket so that he did not freeze, when she suddenly heard the request not to leave him. The girl could not fulfill this request, instead of which she put an elastic band for hair with a soft ball in her hand. After that, she headed for the exit, with a confident look, deciding that I urgently needed to ask Jira about this. 3 days later, the day passed from the moment Doriana was awakened. The walk and visit came to an end. The point was that new shackles were tested on it, because of which access was closed to him for some time. Nearby, the standing guard asked if she was in order, because it doesn't look, after which he offered to go to the infirmary. Her face was red due to the fact that she remembered that night, but explained this by the fact that she overdid it with charging. The knight did not notice anything suspicious in this, so calmly replied that they would see himself later, and then left. Unable to stand it, Liana lowered her head to her knees, as she could not believe in the reality of the situation. And she can't switch to something else when Jir suddenly approached her, saying that magic was activated. When he asked whether she succeeded, the girl gave him an angry look, seeing only a smile in response. Suddenly grabbing him by the breasts, Liana demanded answers from him why the prisoner became bad after the spell. The guy replied that this happened due to sudden changes. Even ordinary people would feel pain if they suddenly grow. Having grinned, the girl replied that it was easy for him to speak, because he himself does not suffer from this, unlike her. When she began to leave, Gear tried to stop her, saying that he did not want to belittle the significance of the problem. And he cannot tell everything, but what she did is very important for him, so he is very grateful to her. The owner of the prison, which has recently rushed between the prison and the capital, fully returned to work. So she completed the task of increased complexity, because it is for magicians that he poses a particular danger. Then, he asked if everything was so bad for the prisoners. But Liana did not fully understood his question. Then she answered wearily that she had not slept so many nights after the incident, and it was very terrible for her health. Then she asked why he became so huge, and what would happen if he begins to grow even further. After she briefly described what happened that night, Gear asked not to worry, because this is temporary. In general, what happened is an indicator that his body was quickly adapted to magic, and this is a positive side. Liana decided to ask if this would happen in the future. The guy answered with a smile that she was absolutely right. When she walked with the prisoner, he felt in what close relations they were, so his choice fell on her. So, people with such curses are not so easy to trust people, which means that she was good to him earlier. The girl thought about it, but at the same time, the guy decided to ask why she was busy with him at all. After this conversation, when she wandered along the corridor, she caught up with her and called out to Sally, with a clearly worried look. The red-haired girl, out of breath, stated that she wanted to say and there that all the girls were alarmed. When asked why, Sally answered with trepidation that a handsome man who everyone liked it came to someone. Many say that he can't compare even with the most beautiful guard of their prison, the overseer of Yerups. Most likely, he will soon leave, so Sally suggested looking at him with her, because she is very interested. She said that Viscount Aisha, leaving the cafeteria, saw a large black carriage racing to them. Liana immediately realized that black is a guest carriage, while blue was exclusively for criminals. According to her, when she saw who was leaving the carriage, her thought was that she had never seen such a man. Liana knew that Aisha was imprisoned due to a scandal with a nobleman that she was 20 years younger, and her husband sent her here. At that very moment, Sally distracted her from thoughts. With a smile asked if she knows that Aisha is an incredible artist. In general, she drew what she saw, because of which the rest of the ladies were delighted with the appearance of the visitor. Liana asked, was it really so incredible that she heard a loud and confident answer to? Apparently, he is really handsome. since such a sophisticated person as Aisha personally drew him. A friend again asked her to go with her and see, but Liana could not refuse her since she wanted it so much. At that very moment, Jason ran to them, a personal guard of Liana, who asked the girl to go with him. He explained that the overseer wanted to see her. The girl did not understand what he needed from her at such a time. Turning to her friend, she said that it would not be possible to go together, after which she was awkwardly apologized. But she understood everything. When he and the knight walked along the corridor, Liana suggested that her brother once again sent her something. Indeed, on the other hand, why else he can call her, except to present the next gifts sent by his brother. They turn into the head. She was surprised to notice the crowd of girls who were chewing loudly among themselves. She decided to directly ask the guard why there are so many people. He sighed before answering. She already knows about their ghost. Apparently, he is there. This is not the last person in status, but he does not know details. Jason smiled and said that it was too noisy. Offering to go the other way, Liana immediately agreed. She noticed a black suit on a guest, thought it was a guy about whom Sally spoke, but his face was not visible. When they entered the building, another knight suddenly ran to them, asking Jason to urgently run after him. The shocked man asked for forgiveness from Liana, after which he asked if she could wait for him here for a couple of minutes. He also politely asked not to say look about her, about what she had heard now. The girl replied that she would be silent. When she was left alone in the corridor, she immediately heard someone's steps, but, turning sharply, she did not notice anyone. She definitely felt someone else's presence, when suddenly behind her, a male voice greeted her, naming by name. Liana turned around again, but there was no one behind, and it frightened her. But she did not show her. She tried to understand what had just been, because it seems she just heard someone just behind herself. At that very moment, the out of breath, Jason fled to her, apologizing for making her to wait so long. Liana decided that it still seemed to her, while not far from her, stood a chaise with a sweet smile on her face. The little wizard, who stood near his legs, with an indifferent look, asked why he did not want to talk to her. The brunette closed his eyes, and we will answer that now is simply not the time, because she needs to stay here for some more time. When asked by the wizard whether he did not want to, Chasir replied that it would still be seen with her very soon. Probably it would be more correct to say, he will still reunite with her soon, because this is what he wants. He asked his sister to tolerate a little more, but the girl, which went far, could not hear him. Before that, Jir asked why she was busy with him. For him, he is excellent material for research. But what goals she has? Liana thought that she was just sorry for him, but she decided not to talk about it, saying only that he was a handsome man. Geyer was surprised, but asked if she would inform. As his condition, she agreed, but did not know if they would meet again. After all, not so often prisoners from different buildings can go for a walk together, no matter how they want them. In response to this guy, he smiled broadly, reminding that he was a magician, so he has his own ways of communication. While she remembered this, a familiar male voice pulled her into reality, because of which the girl shuddered sharply. Renag asked if she was in order. You answered in the affirmative, not understanding why she remembered the words of Jira. She decided that the Renag could be that silhouette in the corridor, but, having discarded this thought, she asked for forgiveness. Liana said that she heard that he had left the prison for a couple of days. He replied that he decided some business in the capital. She remembered that Jir said that in the capital there was a tense time, so it was not surprising that he was on the trip. Remembering the words of the guards, the girl suggested that maybe he was just comfortable here. Suddenly, Renag said that she must have been saddened, but the girl did not understand what it was about, because everything was in order with her. Liana released cookies from her mouth when the overseer explained that her brother had come, but she was not informed about this. Renag said that he wanted to see her, but he had to urgently leave because something happened to the estate. In the end, nothing unusual. It is about the family, and her brother does everything so that everything is fine in the family. Thinking, Liana looked down, after which she agreed with the man, still trying to move away from the news. Her family is under the supervision of Dormulit, and the Chaser is far from stupid and capable of various treacherous plans. The only question is, her brother is now under supervision in a good or bad sense. I would like to know this. But she also wondered what his appearance, he probably had the same pink hair as her. Not only doesn't she know how he looks, then the name has not yet been able to find out, which complicates her understanding. Liana wanted to ask how to even meet again, but Renog said that he had left her something. Getting up from his seat, the man handed the girl a huge bouquet of flowers, the aroma of which Liana immediately felt. Suddenly, she noticed jewelry among the buds of jewel, and a letter lurked between the flowers for her beloved younger sister. The brother hoped that a small gift was enough for her to forgive him for the failed meeting. These beautiful roses will never be found, because he knows that the appearance of wilted roses saddens her, but he does not want her to be sad. How rich the Liana family is, if this is a small gift, and whether it is normal to send this to jail at all. Liana asked if she could take them with her. Renog replied that a slight exception to the rules can be made. In addition, these flowers are going too much. But Liana did not hear this phrase, so she decided to ask again. Without waiting for an answer, the girl said that her family did not seem to be starving, because the gift looks not cheap. Renog said that in family affairs everything goes smoothly. Her brother, as always, copes well with all business. He will make no one dares and touch her gift, so she may not worry about his safety. Probably, Renog thought that she was worried that they could steal him, when he suddenly decided to ask her a question. Is it not interesting to her why her brother sent her here? Liana thought she had already thought about it. Only his brother did this. I immediately thought that he must have a special reason to do this. He is not one of those people who do something just like that. It confirms the gift sent to her as a sign of attention. Maybe he acts out of guilt, maybe from some other goals. But now it was very difficult for her to say anything. Having frowned, the overseer said that he sees that she really trusts her brother, even after that. She was surprised when Renog said that, in any case, he is a good person, does not expect such words from a man. Liana thought that he was well acquainted with her brother, perhaps even more than she could assume. You have to be more careful in the conversation, when suddenly she asked herself why Renog so unexpectedly approached her. She said that she trusts him, because he was her brother, after which she asked if they were sure to talk so close. At that very moment, Renog pulled away and blushed, covering his face with his hand, after which he politely asked for forgiveness. Liana asked herself why he wears monocles, and then asked him directly whether he had a bad vision. The man was embarrassed, and not sure that that was not the point. He just likes how he looks in him. I'm heading for the exit. Liana thought that perhaps relatives asked Renaga to treat her well. But, in her opinion, he himself is kind. Very strange, because in the book he was described at all not such a person. Now even more I want to know what her family is. This question caused her curiosity. Later, sitting in the hall, the Pilatus noticed that she had a too serious expression on her face, and he asked, if something. Liana, looking at the bouquet, replied that she was worried about something. Now for her, it was a rather unusual problem. She said that she has a proposal for him. She will ask a few questions, and he will have to answer, as in the game. Sally suddenly approached them, and with a smile on her face stated that she also wanted to take part. Liana agreed. The girl knew that Sally's social terms is experienced, just like a baron, which means she owns information. She stated that her family is causing some interest, after which he asked if there were guesses, where her parents come from. She asked to guess, but she does not know the answer, although their answers will not be accurate information, but at least some. It seemed to her that she had enough patience to find out everything when she was released. But would it come out at all? If her family is eventually connected with the villain, everything may not end very well, and now she has been worried. She noticed that the faces of the Pilatus and Sally immediately became thoughtful when she mentally asked them to say something. If you need valuable information, perhaps even herself will be able to escape from here, though you will have to hide. The first voice was given by the Pilates, saying that she was the daughter of a family of high status, judging by frequent meetings with the overseer. But at the same time, she was never seen in public, although she was no longer small, so one cannot help but mention Ain't, Liman, and Junda. Sally added that she also thought about them three, but still she doesn't think that not Liman, Maximum Ainty, or Hound. The Pilatus noticed that Countess Ain't from the south, so she has a few dark skin, which is not at all about Liana. The girl also thought about these three, but suggested that she was a daughter of someone higher than these three. Can she ask the overseer to ask anything? Because he was paid? And does this mean that her family has a lot of money? There were too many questions, but there were no answers, so she still needs time to figure it out. At that very moment, the guard stated that it was over, and Liana suggested that the answers are the next time. Rising from his place, Sally and the Pallades agreed with her, since now they still do not have time to talk. Walking along the corridor, Liana thought that it was a pity that the time was over. It was boring in the cell. But there was time to think about the urgent. Suddenly, she remembered that there was still a way to get information. But he was much more risky. Having decided to do this, the girl sat down at the desk and picked up the feather, deciding to directly ask her brother about it. She asked her brother to tell how the family was there, after which she thought about going to Dorian, but it was too late. Mentally apologizing to him, she promised that she would come tomorrow, and now she did not know what was happening there. The next day, when Liana went to Dorian to visit him, she was surprised to find two guards. One of the men said that she was mistaken in the place, and the girl thought that she had never seen these guards. Holding a bag in her hand, she apologized, and then asked what happened, because she first sees them. The guard replied that they were the guards of the West Wing. Liana stared at them, because she knew who they were. The place where the criminals who committed the most severe murder, arson or state treason, are determined. All the guards are there, the senior knights, and here was the only entrance leading to the underground zone. All the most dangerous criminals are here, and a few days ago there was a completely penetration here. Right next to the criminal, evidence was found. Hearing this, Liana immediately got excited and sweated. After all, what if they have in mind the hair elastic band that she gave to Dorian during their last meeting? Then it turns out that the violator is she, and now the girl communicates with the guards who can grab her. Dorian is now the only prisoner there, so the place of the Lord Kambraki was specifically provided to the Henry family. The Renaga family always played on the neutral side, driving in generations and not interfering in other people's affairs. However, they agreed to cooperate with the Duke only on the basis of a common danger, so they had no choice. However, as was said earlier, after some time, Renag will leave the idea of neutrality and join Chemise. At that very moment, Liana made a naive face, after which she asked if it could be a certain accident, not a violator. The man replied that a third-party item was discovered with the criminal, which means that the offender was definitely. The girl replied that this was a problem, after which she was almost sure that she was the offender. Without saying anything, she grabbed her head, not believing that this was happening while the man watched her with surprise. She left the blanket in Dorian's cell, which was previously agreed and approved directly by Hans. He said that he would settle it, and she, in turn, needs to keep her mouth on the castle and not tell anyone about it. The borrowing was limited only to this, while she honestly promised not to leave anything there more. But apparently, she was scared and forgot, because if something terrible and irreversible occurs due to her fault, a gaze rushed to the bracelet donated by Jir, after which she decided that time to use this thing. He said that he had improved the bracelet, and now she can take advantage of magic as 4 times. That is, the chance that it will fall into a hopeless situation will decrease many times and increase the chances of success. It will still remain for the use of magic, so it is time for her to check how he is doing and whether he is still alive. She just wanted to check, because she knows that the Western Wing guards deal with violence every day. Now the girl asked only one question, whether they could do something Dorian in this short time. Perhaps now he is very wounded, and all this through her fault, but she hoped that nothing serious happened to him. Looking around the corner, Liana noticed that, fortunately, there was only one guard who could easily distract. Raising a small pebble from the floor, she threw him forward, to which the surprised knight reacted instantly. The man immediately ran forward, and Liana rushed towards the stairs to go down the floor below. Noticing an empty table, she realized that Hans was not here, after which she discovered Dorian, who immediately recognized her. The girl was surprised that he recognized her, even when she put on a hood, which was sincerely surprised. Liana realized that it came too close when the guy jumped on her, saying that she had a special smell. Suddenly, the girl was deployed, answering that it was pleasant to know that he was glad to her, but it is not necessary to grab her. Suddenly, she decided to ask if he liked her, Dorian literally froze in this question in a stupor. The next second, he blushed sharply and recoiled from her, and Liana with a smile suggested that she had hit the apple. The guy shouted that he did not mean anything vulgar, and the girl was glad that the guy was whole and unharmed. Then she smiled and said that perhaps in the future he will have problems because of her. Although this is not a fact. Dorian did not understand what problems was being discussed, but immediately asked if she would come later, and tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. He added that if she arrives, he would even allow her to hit himself. Liana was surprised by such loud speeches. Suddenly, she asked loudly and displeasedly why she then brought him medicine, not wanting to listen to his excuses. After that, she tiredly crouched next to him, trying to calm down after a small skirmish with Dorian. Suddenly, the guy looked at her and said that she was the best person in this prison, and there are no others. Every day, he can only think about her. Liana was pleased to hear it, especially how he was embarrassed saying it. But suddenly, the guy shouted loudly that when he was thinking about her, his body grows, which sounded very ambiguously. When the girl heard this, a shock froze on her face. She could not believe that Dorian could say that. Having covered her mouth with her hand, Liana thought that she had a lot of questions, but it was uncertain that at least one of them should be voiced. Justifying thoughts, she asked herself to calm down, because she was sure that absolutely everyone has the same demons in her head. The girl assured herself that everything was fine, because if you look at his gaze, then you can't think that he had in mind. At that very moment, Dorian blushed very much, after which he covered his mouth with his hands and asked not to look so closely. Liana thought that she should be on the guillotine for such thoughts, but she asked what he had in mind. The guy uncertainly replied that when he thinks about her, his arms and legs seem to become longer, and even his fingers. When the girl calmed down, she decided to clarify that, roughly speaking, he lengthens when she thinks only of her. Hearing an affirmative answer, she asked if he tried to check if this was really so or to him. She offered to check the difference in growth before and after, using the wall, making notes on it with a chalk or stone. Dorian looked down and replied that he had not thought of that before that. But Liana said that there was nothing wrong with that. Then she went up to him, after which she stroked her head and said that it was too late and time to go to sleep. Grabbing her by the leg, the guy replied that he did not want, because if she goes to bed, she will disappear again, as always. He added that she would leave, and it is not known when he appears again, but he really wants to be near her now. The guy looked at her with a sweet gaze, after which he began to beg her to stay with him for some time. Liana agreed to stay. I will explain that she definitely needs to leave this place before dawn, and this is not discussed. Then she added that she was still right when she said that he might have problems because of her. The girl asked if he remembers the hair elastic band that she gave him. The guy answered affirmatively. Liana explained that because of her, the guard realized that she had penetrated and put an additional guard. Then her friend stood on guard. It seems that he did not give her out. In the end, they thought about someone else, so she was very lucky. Hans even betrayed her, but probably angry, would tell she would have reported on alcohol and cigarettes that she gave him. In addition, do not forget that she is a special prisoner, so Heinze is doubly better to be silent. Suddenly, Dorian asked her not to blame herself, because something happened before she gave him an elastic band. Then, loneliness was felt much more painful, but now with her, he feels alive. Liana did not understand the meaning of his words. Dorian explained that with her, he did not need to stare at the wall all the time, since now he always thinks about her. And now it has become much easier to wait for her arrival, and therefore he is very glad that he got it elastic band. Liana did not even assume that an ordinary elastic band would gain such a meaning for him, and would also make life easier. It turns out that she was like a glass of water, which appears in front of someone suffering from incredibly strong thirst. She can moisturize her lips, but her thirst will not work. When suddenly she noticed that today he did not turn into a dog. The guy blushed, replied that he did not know why. But this is good, because he wants to be remembered and much more. The girl thought that he still does not know what factors affect his transformation, but you need to find out. At that very moment, the guy began to moan, as if in pain, and the girl looked at him with worriedly, not understanding what was happening. Touching him, she felt that he was all hot, when she suddenly realized that it could be that side effect. Suddenly, Dorian grabbed her hand, after which he greeted her with a smile, and she threw away all doubts. Without releasing her hand, the guy with a smile and not hidden with interest asked what she had prepared for him today. Liana sharply turned out her hand, answering with a displeased look that she had nothing to give him, and she was not his mistress. Understanding that now is the time to leave, the girl rose from the floor, saying that she had to leave for a long time. With a wave of his hand, he asked why she would not lie down here. Hearing this, Liana thought in shock that he had gone crazy. Running out of the camera, she thought that I had to remember that it was necessary to run away as soon as he became ill. Climbing the stairs, Liana thought that I should not forget to use the invisibility spell. Looking around the corner, she noticed that the guards were again at the post, so you need to carefully slip past them. Suddenly, the girl shuddered when she heard steps behind him, and with every second they became closer. Liana stood and did not move, trying to understand what to do in such a situation, because one rustle, and she would be caught immediately. When she decided to snuggle up to the wall, she immediately heard the question in her direction whether she liked the walk. Turning around, she noticed Renaga and tried to understand how he sees her, because she uses the magic of invisibility. The guard has not yet noticed her, and she cannot stop working at just such a dysfunctional moment. However, the girl perfectly understood that with the magic of Jira was all right, because of which she nervously bit her lip. When a man went to her, he slowly held out his hand and asked for a bit of his lips, because he could go so blood. The girl was dumbfounded when Reynag extended his hand to her, because it meant that he certainly sees her. Looking away, the overseer said that he did not want to scare her. He simply noticed how she silently froze in the middle of the corridor. Liana asked how he understood from the back that she was, to which she received an answer, that he simply could not help but recognize her. He understood this in terms of steps and pace. The girl tried to realize how this was generally possible, not believing in what she heard. Then he put his hand on his chest, asking if she was surprised that he sees her even under the spell of invisibility. Liana was nervous, agreeing with him, after which she decided to ask directly how he did. Renag decided to ask in response what the lady does in the basement at such a late hour, also under the spell. The girl pursed her lips, that if she did not receive an answer to her question, then he will also remain unanswered. The man realized what her silence means, after which he said that he sees her, because the matter is in his abilities. The man revealed the secret that everything that is happening in his prison could find out, if only he wishes. However, he cannot use the ability regularly. At this time, he squeezed a bouquet that hid from a girl in a sleeve. He pointed to her bracelet, asked whether her brother gave her this instrument. She decided to lie and answered in the affirmative. Liana realized that she had underestimated him. It seemed to her that only Chasera was worth being afraid, but Renag was just as good. The girl added that she told her brother that she wanted some magic item, so he sent her this bracelet. Passing by her, the man accepted the explanation, surprises the girl with the fact that everything was without any interrogation. Then he turned around, and with a serious expression on his face, said that such items were banned in prison, but he would close his eyes to this. All because his brother asked her to give freedom of action, because of which he was not entitled to go against her will, so that she would not do. And therefore, he personally wants her to do everything that she likes, not worried about punishment or even worse. The girl was dumbfounded when he said that if she wants to take a walk at night again, he could accompany her. Having extended his hand, the overseer added that it would be better if she does not cancel the action of magic right now. The two of them began to pass by the guard, which only a man noticed, and they did not even pay attention to the vine. Renag no longer asked the reason for her sortie, so she decided not to specify the question of how he recognized her. Suddenly, the overseer said that if she was tired, he may not come for breakfast. He will ask him to bring him to the camera. Liana immediately remembered that it was in this body that she had a heart attack, so she thanked him. Renag asked not to worry about those who talk about her privilege in a bad light. He will make them be silent. In response, the girl only smiled at him, but inside she was very scared. But she tried not to show a look. Suddenly, she decided to ask why he cares about her so much. For some time the man was silent, pondering the question. He remembered how, in a distant childhood, he constantly watched Liana, but always hesitate to approach and speak. He thought that he simply wanted her. At least once looking at him, she smiled. But it never was. However, he replied aloud that he simply because he wanted. Such an answer was surprised by the girl. But he would not say more. She asked if he would allow her to visit her a dungeon. He replied that she would never get tired of playing with him. With an indifferent expression on her face, Renog said that he heard that she humiliated him, threw the ball, and forced to bring it. The girl smiled, trying to understand how he was only able to perceive the games with Dorian in such a rigid context. The man took a step forward, after which he stated that he would give her permission to enter the dungeon when she wanted. But in return, he asked if she could spend as much time with him as he spends with the prisoner. When the day came, Liana literally dozed in an armchair when suddenly the Pilatus and Sally halted her once again. They asked why she was pecking her nose, and during the meal looked rather tired. They decided that she was ill. The man said that if you look like this, it looks more like that she was deeply saddened, possibly because of her brother. Liana dismissed a smile, answering negatively and explaining that she simply did not get enough sleep that night. She forgot about her brother and answered him again, although quite a lot of time has passed. In addition, today it was noisy, and people said that the Banton Museum of Arts was blown up today. Others said that the newspaper writes that the head of the house is seriously wounded, and that perhaps he would not survive. Liana is surprised. Although the family Dormalite is not the best in the plot, but one of the two patrons of the empire. Can it be that this is the work of his son Chaser? They seem to be in good relations, so everything is possible. Suddenly, the guy closed his mouth to the one who said this, explaining that the followers of the Black Roses could hear him. The frightened guy added that they should not provoke them, otherwise the next bomb will certainly appear next to him. Rising from her seat, Liana thought that if the current chapter would die, all power would cross Chaser. The followers of Kamiser are the same as their idol. Crazy, and sometimes they subjugate riots without knowing. It seems that of all people, only she does not care about all this, so she decided not to listen to unpleasant news anymore. This place is very far from the capital, so, one might say, in the Polish safety from its passions. Liana thought so, until something happened to her. But no one could expect that this would happen. When Liana came to the Dorian camera, she met the senior knight Reuben, who was glad to meet her. The girl was unhappy, thought that it seemed he knew that she would come. Probably. Renog sent him to look. He said that he was ordered to fulfill any of her whims. Then he asked what she would like at the moment. Liana replied that she wanted to take a walk to the prisoner, after which 2 guards brought Dorian from the camera. The guy looked at Reuben all the time, although I don't know that this is a senior knight, but his strength seems to feel him. Being outside, Liana took his hand and asked not to be nervous, because no one would do any harm to him. Although it is obvious that for him, a new guard is a new number of prohibitions, so such a reaction is not surprising. When they sat down on the bench, the girl asked the guard, could not deliver him alone for a short while. When the knight moved away, the girl thought that, from such a distance, they would definitely not hear them, so you can communicate. She worried about Dorian whether he was in order. He nodded, answered with an indifferent look that everything was fine. The girl decided to support the conversation that the weather was pleasant today, but the guy said that he was not about that. Grabbing her sleeve, Dorian specified that he was good now, because she is nearby, but he does not need more. Liana did not expect to hear such speeches from Dorian, but hearing this was quite pleasant and flattering. The day foreshadowed a walk without incidents. It seemed to her that it would be so, but someone made his way to the prison. When there was a deafening explosion, one of the knights shouted that hear the bomb, forcing the girl to turn around. The person who got a job said that the family Dormalit is passing on greetings and a long life of Chaser. While he shouted that Mr. Chaser would be captured by the whole world soon, Liana first thought that she needed to run. The knights immediately ordered the prisoners to immediately leave, indicating them to retreat. They obeyed. Liana, together with Dorian, hid behind a tree nearby, deciding that they would be safe here. Not far from themselves, they heard the loud laughter of the demolition, because of which the girl began to worry that they would be found. Suddenly, holding the guy's hand, she realized that he had changed right now, and another guy was already looking at her. Clutching him to her chest, Liana heard that the bomb was no longer found, so the knights should catch the criminal. At that very moment, they announced that the underground prisoner had disappeared. Most likely, hid somewhere, and you need to find it. Liana thought displeasedly that things were bad, although now they are now out of danger from the new explosion. However, they are not out of the danger that Dorian can see this, and this promises huge problems for him. Suddenly, the guy asked. She was Liana, not the mistress, after which he pressed himself against her, saying that she was very warm. At heart, she shouted loudly that he could not be tactful, especially being in such a danger. Liana tried to understand what caused his growth. Soon the guard would find them, and then they will see him like that. Brands on her? He asked. Was she really not glad to see him? The girl replied that now is not the time to talk about such. The first thing the guards will think about when finding them is that it is involved in the changes in it, and it will not end in anything good. Suddenly, Dorian touched her lips with his thumb, saying that if she bites her lips so much, she will begin to hurt. The guy with a smile added that it was tested on personal experience, after which he offered to bite her himself and help. With a dissatisfied look, the girl removed his hand and stated that it was not worth it, that Dorian did not really like it. Then he put her hand to his cheek. Thanks if she likes to touch him. He is very good when she does so. When asked when she still touched him, Dorian replied that when he brought her a ball that she had thrown. He added that she touched him in a similar way. In response to this, Liana said that it would be better if he was silent now. Suddenly, the guy asked if his lips could not bite something about the hand. The excited girl replied that it was also impossible. Suddenly, they heard two knights who were not far from them, saying that the noise came from there. At that very moment, Doriana, unhappy, asked if she had forgotten how to beat him. Do not pay attention to the guards. Liana was surprised that this version also has memories from the bestial form, after which she pulled Dorian. The girl asked her body as a whisper as much as possible. He wanted to lie on her knees. Without thinking twice, Liana did not agree. But the guy was surprised how simply he did it, and immediately lay down. Sitting under a tree, the girl listened as the guard rushed back and forth, waiting for them to find them. Suddenly, Reuben found them, and Liana said that everything is fine with her now, only a little shocked by the explosion. But the prisoner is unhealthy, he has a fever. The girl mentally thanked him that he returned to the true form. Looking at the prisoner with surprise, the man said that he was glad that they were both conditional. Reuben invited them to return. At the same time, the girl finally looked at the guy sleeping on her knees. Liana ran to her camera, panting, after which she began to remember what happened to Dorian. She could not believe that he grew up at that moment, and even remembered what was in the bestial appearance. As a result, now Dorian was locked again, and she was kicked out of the dungeon until he settles in conflict with the demolition. The girl wanted cold water, and as soon as she got drunk, she sighed rather, thinking that now you can live on. They say that pain is irritation of the nerve endings, but it is not clear how the growth magic works, and how it works. The question was brewing why Dorian was painful. You need to seriously think about it, because this is its direct duty. After all, it was she who awakened this magic in him, albeit with the help of Jira. But all this was made by her hands. This time, she definitely needs to meet with Yer in order to find out in detail and beg information from him. Approaching the table, she was surprised to find a letter that was not here in the morning. Perhaps his brother sent him. At that very moment, she remembered that she had asked him to tell about the family, and it seemed she had a long-awaited answer. The content of the letter was extremely brief. There the brother asked his beloved sister only about who was boring her. It was written as if he was angry, but it is strange, because she did not give the slightest reason for this. Reading the letter, Liana still could not understand why he was angry, and because she did not ask anything like that. Perhaps she is mistaken, but this brevity was straining, and usually the letter from her brother is full of welcome words. Putting him on the table, the girl even suggested that it wasn't he wrote, and now she tried to understand what the problem was. She just asked about the family, so it is not clear why to be angry because of a simple innocent question. But she does not think that she is mistaken about anger, because there is a feeling that something is missing, and the puzzle does not converge. Brother, letter, family. She cannot build a connection. Now it would be important for her to at least find out her surname. Having headed for her bunk, she thought that there was no sense in so many experiences, and you need to rest a little. She wanted to write a response later, But in the end, she completely forgot about it and did not answer. The next day, she was called to the overseer, because of which Liana once again stunned at the set table. Looking at her, the completely calm Renog asked what she would like to answer today, waiting for an answer. When asked what this is, the man replied that it was desserts. The girl saw it perfectly, but did not understand why. She did not understand what such an event was, to which Renog replied that he was waiting for her, but it only scared the girl. He asked what she would like, adding that if this is not here, she may not be shy, and ask. They will bring everything to her. With an awkward smile, she replied that she had enough cake and sherbet, but decided to find out in honor of which all this was arranged. The overseer answered because she promised, said that she would spend as much time with him as with Dorian. Smiling, the man added that it would be a big omission to spend these minutes not on something special. Liana looked at him with undisguised surprise, remembering that she looked at Dorian this morning briefly, but due to the fact that he was an animal guise, they could not talk normally, so she had to leave. Liana at least found out that Dorian is in order, but she wanted to ask him about something important, but it did not work. She was sorry that this could not be done, and at the same time it was strange that she decided to talk about it only now. But there were always a lot of scars on the body of Dorian. She thought that they were all remained from their father's beatings. And only after a while, she found out that one of the guards beat him. They said that he had to be beaten so that he would become a man. This guy sincerely did not understand that there was a lot of problems in beating. Because of this, many problems arose in the girl's head. Suddenly, Renog asked if she was thinking about sherbet, after which he said that he was delicious, and began to feed her from a spoon. The girl was surprised by this behavior, after which she asked if he also wanted to try the strawberries. Renog leaned over, and Liana put the fork in his mouth, after which the picture of what was happening began to slowly reach her. The next second, she shuddered and asked loudly, because she was a little carried away in her actions. In turn, the man wiped his mouth with a handkerchief, answering that he does not know at all why she apologizes. But he was not opposed. After all, if it is she, he will forgive everything without an apology. Such words caused another shock on the face of Liana. Having a look, she thought that she would not get used to him in any way, although she communicated with him for a long time. She promised Renaga to spend as much time with him as with Dorian, but now she was uncomfortable. As a result, she cannot look into his eyes without fear, although she understands that this person cannot do anything to her. But she knows how cruel this man can be in a fit of anger, as she remembered him very well from the novel. She slightly strained, thinking that the main thing is not to cross his road. Only then, everything will be fine with her. The overseer was surprised by her behavior, after which he asked if she liked to spend time with him alone. Liana realized in shock that all her anxiety was expressed on her face, so she decided to relax a bit. Smiling, she answered negatively. Although she screamed in the depths of herself that everything was so, she was very scared. She explained that he helped her so much, because of which she feels gratitude, so she was glad to spend time with him. Smiling, he asked if she liked the food. She replied with a satisfied look that she had tried the entire assortment. The man understood everything, after which he asked to eat, yet before that, she did not have the opportunity to eat such dishes. Then he apologized, because he knows that she does not like to talk about her past, despite the fact that they did not see each other. However, he heard a lot about her, after which he asked if she realized that their relationship is very beneficial to both of them. Liana did not understand whether he was talking about relations between families, after which she asked what exactly he heard about her. It was worth saying that she did not remember anything, and not to try to pretend to be knowledgeable. Then there would be no problems. Then the girl decided now to adhere to this, after which the overseer again turned to her. He stated that, it seems, the date of her release will soon become famous. This news shocked inside the girl. The smile immediately disappeared from her face when she decided to clarify what he meant by her release. Renog recalled that he had already said that she would soon be taken from prison. Liana, in shock, asked if it was possible. Looking at her expression, the man asked if she was not glad. She replied that she was here because she had committed a crime. Not having time to finish, she shuddered when the man knocked on the table, asking if she thought so all this time. Out of two hands, Renog said loudly that she was not to blame for anything, These words were dumbfounded by the girl. The man shouted that she was not a criminal. Liana looked at him in surprise, not able to understand this. The girl said that it was a prison, after which she asked why she was here if she did not violate any laws. Renag replied that the reason is different. We can say that it is categorically different from other offenders. Frowning, and she decided to find out the true reason why she was here. Renag thought before answering. The man calmed down a little, after which he said that he knew not so much, but she is here to protect. Outside these walls, there are people who want to harm her, and the brother decided for some time to bury her here. Liana is a girl of noble blood, albeit for protection. How could you send her to the worst place of the empire? Although the conditions here correspond to the nobility, the prison is a prison where a lot was inaccessible to such people. What was on the mind of a person who came up with this venture is unclear, or maybe these were desperate measures. The overseer added that no one other than her brother, who cared about her safety, instructed her to defend her. A little later, sitting in Dorian's cell, Liana considered this conversation, not noticing how the guy went to her. Renag's words were repeated in her head, but for her it was too difficult to understand the true plan. Then she decided to stroke Dorian, asking whether he is a man or an animal, asking him to remove his fangs from her. Suddenly, he froze with a surprised look when the girl apologized and said that today she had nothing to give him to eat. At that very moment, he began to gently bite her hand, while Liana invited him to stop, saying that this was not food. After a couple of seconds, his face became red and the expression changed. Then the girl realized that he had already come to his senses. Dorian apologized, and Liana was unhappy, asked why so, because he should immediately bite her hand. Suddenly, the guy asked whether he could repeat it, because of which the girl immediately shuddered in surprise. Looking at the next change of the guy, she asked herself when he managed to change in such a short time. She asked why he came. He answered because she called him, and he could not afford not to appear. Suddenly, Dorian was sad, asked why she avoids him, and whether he hates him, saying such things. Liana replied that now, in order to go for a walk, you need to wait until it enters another state. Then she asked why he had changed. Dorian replied that she did not know, because everything was happening. You just have to think about her. The guy asked why she avoids visual contact, because he does not like it, and she has very beautiful eyes. The girl abruptly removed his hand, asking not to come closer, otherwise she will use the magic of invisibility. Dorian replied that he understood everything, after which he took a curl of her hair, asking him to allow to ask another question. He was wondering why, when she came before, she immediately turned and left, without saying a single word to him. Liana was surprised that he remembered this, although then it was in animal guise, and did not want to contact her. She, in shock, asked if he knew all their conversations that were with other guises. He answered affirmatively. Dorian explained that no matter what kind of form was, he is he, after which he slowly inhaled the aroma of her hair. Suddenly he smiled, and asked which of the appearance she likes the most. Liana was surprised at this issue. She looked at him with a surprised look. I don't know what to answer, while the guy said that he was always interested. Liana said displeasedly that she would not answer the question, and Dorian asked what the question she wanted to ask him. Without wasting time, the girl asked if he knew Jira when he heard this name. The guy's eyes expanded for a moment. He replied that since she did not answer his question, for the answer to this, he wants to get something from her in return. Closing her eyes, the girl agreed to give an answer to his question. I will explain that she likes the first appearance more. At that very moment, she was announced that the time of the meal, with displeasure turned around, she announced that she would return later. She wondered why right now, when suddenly the guy grabbed her hand, asking if she was promising. Liana, with a surprised look, asked him to keep her promise. Then she would return every time she promises him. Dorian agreed, after which he released her hand, watching the girl hastily heading for the exit from the camera. At that very moment, the guy put his hand, which he held the girl to his mouth, saying that she was obliged to return. A little later, Renag apologized to her for suddenly calling her again. She replied that nothing was wrong. The man suggested that she was probably very dumbfounded when she was in this place. Perhaps she already understood why he did not show before her then. He had in mind the first days of her conclusion. Liana suggested that this was in order to let her adapt calmly. The man immediately agreed with her. The girl asked if he often received such requests to weaken the conditions of detention. Renag nodded. Now Liana was nervous, thinking that the families of Renaga and Liana are much closer than she could imagine. It was certainly necessary to find out. Then she said that she treated her as if she were a duchess. Having lowered his head, the overseer asked not to exaggerate his contribution, and in the end, she was not a duchess. This was very pleased, because these titles belonged to people from the Henry clan and Dormalite, but he said nothing about it. He said that he did not speak about her family, because he knows how she despises her, and does not want her to hate him. The girl looked at him in surprise, because she did not expect that, in fact, Liana despised her family. At the same moment, the knight came to them and called out Renaga, holding some documents in his hands. But Liana did not listen to them. A couple of minutes later, the girl shuddered when the overseer called her, because of which she asked what happened. With an worried look, Renag replied that her brother suddenly wanted to see her in the near future. Suddenly, the man asked if she was guilty somehow in front of him, but she replied that it seemed to be not there. Suddenly, the realization came to her that she did not answer the letter that she was going to write to him a couple of days ago, and now she was scared, because everything was very bad, because she did not expect that he wanted to meet so quickly. With a serious expression on the face, the overseer said that she needed to meet him as soon as possible. But then, he added that they had problems. But when he saw her interrogative expression, he realized that she knew nothing. Suddenly, he announced that the Duke of Henry would come here soon. Liana did not expect that the news was so serious. The man explained that he would come to a member of his family, which is now imprisoned in the underground parts of the prison. It was about Dorian. The tension was immediately lucky in the air, while the girl realized that very soon Dorian would be hit. She did not even imagine what would happen if they learn about his abilities and see him in a grown form. The state of affairs can be even worse than now, so it was decided to urgently meet with Grrrrr. Renag asked if she was restless, adding that this was justified, because after undermining, they need to be careful. Remembering the recent events, the girl thought that her devoted to She's brother should not appear here now. Other followers are now active in a bad sense, even arranged a subversive act, worsening the reputation of Kamiser. In the fantasies of Liana, Dorian's father literally killed everyone, as a friend thought that her brother could also kill. When asked when the Duke arrives, the man with a surprised look replied that somewhere for 4 days. However, at the same time, her brother will arrive. They have similar paths. Liana realized that they could cross at any moment. In prison, no one is allowed to make noise, so if something happens, His Majesty will understand. The worried girl asked if they could expand her brother until he arrived, but Renag did not know this. He doubts that her brother will listen to him, and he is already on the way. The letter will not work out in any case. They will not be able to contact him until he gets to here, so they have no choice but to wait. But then the overseer politely asked her not to get involved if there was any conflict between families. Liana thanked him for anxiety, to which Renag replied that, in the end, they were not strangers to each other. The girl did not understand what he was talking about, after which she got up from her seat, saying that since they had discussed everything, she would go. Suddenly, Renag came close to her, asking not to forget that he was always there and was ready to help her at any moment. 2 days later, Liana realized that the task of meeting Grrrrr was much more complicated than she expected. Approaching the guard, the girl asked if she could somehow meet with the prisoner from the Eastern Wing. They answered negatively, and Liana thought that there was not much time left, just some 2 days. At this pace, she will not be able to help Dorian. But you can't give up, and you need to urgently come up with something. Then she stated that she wanted to go down to the underground part of the prison, immediately offered to lead her to the place. Walking along the corridor, the guard apologized to Liana, scaredly asking if she was against it on her own. He was sure that nothing would happen to her along the road. Surprised by such a proposal, the girl immediately agreed. Having walked ahead a little, the girl heard some steps not far from herself, but she never noticed anyone. Turning around, she thought that she was heard. But if you look like that, somehow in this place today is especially empty, as if something happened here, when suddenly the girl shuddered when she heard her name and familiar voice of Grrrrr. Then she drew attention to her hand, realizing that his voice was coming from the bracelet that he gave her. Liana, with a displeased look, asked if he was true. He replied with a smile that she was very glad that she remembered him. His answer was even more angry, with a girl who loudly asked to find out why he did not contact her for so long. He does not even imagine how much time she was looking for him. Who to whom? And he would contact her. Just spit. Suddenly, the guy laughed again, after which he asked for forgiveness and explained that he was just a very busy person. Then he asked if there was anyone near her, asking him to move to the most safe place. He asked her to find a place where they could talk freely, after which the girl went to the clearing. When she announced that she had come, Grrrr said that this place would be suitable, as if he could personally observe what was happening. Having hailing him, Liana did not receive an answer, after which she said that now we could say, but he continued to be silent. Suddenly, she noticed that the light had extinguished, decided that the connection was cut off, or something else had happened. Looking at the bracelet, the girl did not understand what to do. Go back or better, to wait for him to return. While she was trying to deal with this problem, she did not notice how a guy in a dark suit approached her from her back. Liana asked herself whether the problem was on her side, when suddenly the stranger's hands closed her eyes, blocking the view. Her first thought was that she sees nothing, as a friend of a stranger told her that everything was fine, asking him to be silent. She was surprised to hear a soft, velvet voice, but she could not imagine who he could belong. The voice is affectionate. She had never heard him before, but a feeling appeared, as if she knew to whom he belongs. At that very moment, the guy asked if his little sister chewed well, thereby dumbfounding Liana. She could not believe that this was a man, and her brother was interested in why he was now here. She thought that there was no one else who could so affectionately name the name of Liana, except for her older brother. Then she realized that he was a brother, a man with whom she was familiar with all this time only through letters. She did not know what to do, because before that, she spoke only with those who did not know the former Liana. But now everything is not so. Although they were familiar with the Renag, but not too close, so he carried him, and he did not find out anything. Then she wondered if she could withstand in a conversation with a loved one who knew another Liana. Not sure saying one word, the guy was surprised that she answered him at all, although this did not bother the girl. Cheezer said with a smile that she said earlier that she would never talk to him again. Why did he add that he thought that her voice would never hear again, although for a long time he wished only this? However, during the last meeting, she slept, so he could not finally enjoy her pleasant voice. Then he sat nearby and thought what to do if she opened his eyes. But he never found the answer to this question. He did not come openly, because he thought that she did not want to see him, so he talked with her exclusively letters. While the guy enjoyed the aroma of her hair, Liana thought that she was very pleased to listen to this voice. Liana, at least recently, had not very good relations with his brother, but it is not known how much. It could be both a small dispute or a serious quarrel that led to her promise to be silent. Perhaps because Liana was in prison, relations and deteriorated, but it is too early to draw some conclusions. Chemister once again apologized for having to sit instead of him, because almost immediately he began to miss her. When he said this, goosebumps passed along the girl's back from the realization that she was sitting here not through her fault. While she was thinking about it, the guy smiled, after which he asked if she missed him as he was like her. Liana did not know what to answer, when she suddenly felt that some strange aroma came from him. For some reason, she remembered Dorian, although the smell is absolutely opposite to what comes from him. Turning to her brother, the girl touched his hand, when she suddenly felt that he started to shudder from her touch. She did not understand why, perhaps. She turned to him incorrectly, although she also called him a brother in letters. At the same time, Chaser smiled, after which he said that she called him a brother, and then asked him, did she really forgive him? Liana thought that she would have to know what exactly she could forgive him for, so now she had not answered anything. Suddenly, they both flinched when they heard the voices of the guards who shouted that he was not there either. The girl did not see what was happening there, when she suddenly felt that her brother sighed heavily and lowered her head. She felt his breath when he said that for him, a huge relief to see her completely healthy. Suddenly, Shazer said that if he touched her, he would never leave it just like that, and destroyed him. Then he said that he would transfer the date of her release closer to the question of how much he answered that she would soon find out. Liana asked why to transfer the date, The guy replied that she wanted her to be next to him as quickly as possible. He then announced that now he could prepare for her a safe place that would be safer than this. For some reason, the girl immediately remembered the case with the explosion. Then she realized what he wanted to protect her from. Suddenly, he asked her forgiveness for everything, adding that he would not make her regret it, after which he hugged. The guy also asked her to wait a bit, because soon he would come after her. After that, he removed his hand from her eyes. Liana immediately turned around. Behind her, a man in black robes was in a hurry to leave this place as quickly as possible. She was hard to see after a long darkness, but she noticed that he was tall, and the physique is amazing. At that very moment, she was discovered by a guard who asked why she was here and whether she accidentally saw a man. Liana immediately began to pretend, but that she had not seen anyone, asking if it was some kind of prisoner. The guy replied that these were not prisoners. Let's explain that today, a respected guest who disappeared into prison. It seemed to them that he seemed lost. It was not very safe to walk here, so the knights are already looking for him. Liana realized that they were looking for her brother, but did not think that he was lost. Then said that she had heard strange sounds. The guy immediately flinched, and the girl did not have time to say where they came from. The knight rushed in that direction. When he thanked her and moved at a distance, Liana asked him for forgiveness for lifting, dunging on the fingers like a gun. The girl thought that she had covered his face for her brother, for cigarettes and flowers. But still, why did the brother come here? Too strange behavior for a simple visit to his sister, and even escape. All that she tried to ignore is the universe, and everything connected with Liana completely swept her with a wave. Questions about her were filled with her head. With these thoughts, she returned to the hall where the rest of the prisoners were. Pallidus shouted loudly that he was sure that the Rose War would soon gain a much more serious character. Sally asked if the Archduke would lead to such a provocation. The man decided to put the Baron on the end. Approaching them and asking about the conversation, the man said that Liana came on time, after which he pointed to her the newspaper. He explained that they discussed 5 great roses of the empire, one of the pride of the country, the reason for the envy of other countries. He suggested that she knew the tradition of them. She replied that she would love to listen to a familiar story. The girl did not know anything about this, but she just wanted to know more about this country, and at the same time about roses. Showing on his fingers, the Pallidus said that in their empire, there are 3 special things that are nowhere to be anywhere. The first was a masterpiece created by the legendary inventor when the empire only formed a sunny castle. The second was a prison of Kimbrax, built in ancient times, which was also a special place. And the last were roses that extol the names of 5 duchies of their empire. And everyone has family ability. Liana recalled that the curse of Dorian was just connected with them, but one duchy disappeared from the face of the earth. Well, one more was missing. As a result, there were 3 of them. The yellow rose Valteas, the black rose is Dormalite. The last was the red rose of Henry, but the most famous of them were just red and black roses. The sworn enemies, the Duchy of Dormalite and Henry, their enmity is called the War of Roses, which still lasts. The yellow rose retains neutrality and is famous for the manager of this prison, the heir to the Valtes. Liana was surprised to hear about Renaga, because she did not know about this earlier, but now she began to slowly reach her awareness. Pallidus was interesting to the White Rose. The duchy very suddenly disappeared, despite the glory from ancient times. Unlike the rest, the special power of the White Rose is known to the whole country, so it is not for anyone left a mystery. It was the power of healing, so they were called saints. Perhaps precisely because of this power they disappeared. Liana shuddered when she heard about it, because the healing power was just like that of France, the main character. She also did not know about her belonging to the duchy, but in the end, it turns out that all the heroes of this book are associated with roses. This is a clearly difficult coincidence, because it is connected with the main character of the book, Franius Ali. The Pallidus said that the duchy of the sinking of the problem with the fact that their ability has disappeared, and children are born without it. Sally replied that it was, and even His Majesty lost interest in them, although he previously respected them very much. And yet they are not so bad yet, because if you take blue, then they just took them and forgot. Their name is now only in the depths of history. People practically do not remember them, as if they were not there. Pilatus suggested talking about the good, reminding with a smile that in a couple of days the day of visits would begin. A man with a satisfied look explained to Liana that they called the time period when visits were allowed. For the highest ranking, a tea party will be carried out, and finally, it will be possible to remove a prison form. And this event lasts as long as 3 days. Although the name sounds like one day, Liana compared it to the sanatorium. Then, she thought that her brother came for this event, just in advance, and soon Henry would be in place too. She was sure that Dorian would soon cripple, after which she asked her uncle whether the guests would be for all 3 days. Pilatus replied that, as far as he knows, no, because the first day is preparation, and the guests will be from the second day. And only on the third day does a closed event fall, that is, a tea party that he mentioned earlier. Liana was thinking of hiding Dorian on the days of the event, although it is unlikely that his father would mock him in front of him. Of course, this is not necessary to do this, but still, this is a temporary solution to his problems until the next visit. And yet she does not want him to hurt again, which means that you need to somehow protect his father's wrath. If he hides, he will win the time to find out the cause of his unnatural growth, kill 2 hares with 1 shot. It is necessary to meet with Jair as soon as possible. After their connection broke off, there was no news from him. Perhaps he is also looking for her, but he, due to the location, is more difficult to contact her than her with him. A little later, 2 guards said that she could not go there. Lena said she had permission, but she immediately answered that the matter was not in the absence of permission. A small fire occurred on the stairs, as a result of which it was destroyed, except with the help of magic to go down, so it will not succeed. The girl immediately asked whether the prisoner who was there was in the affirmative. Then the man apologized, but for the sake of her safety before restoring the stairs, any visit is prohibited. She sighed calmly, after which she asked when the restoration was completed. She was answered that soon. Returning back, Liana thought that this happened at the wrong time, and her whole plan went crashed. When she returned to her camera, she thought that at all costs I had to find a way of communication with Grrrrr. Looking at her wrist, the girl realized that the bracelet was still silent, that her position worsened. The next day, Renag called Liana to him, after which he asked with a serious look if she had met with her brother. The girl smiled, answering in the affirmative, and he called her after a meal, but she was already used to these visits. He said that he asked him 100 times, and everything was like a wall of peas. He only came here, and immediately to her. Then he apologized, because she was probably scared, but the girl replied that he had nothing to ask for forgiveness. Renag said that her brother turned the whole prison upside down, and it became clear to her why the knights were looking for him so much. He had to stop him at all costs, but Liana asked not to blame herself, because in the end, everything ended well. When she said that she was missing her brother, the overseer was sincerely surprised, asking, "Did they really make peace?" The girl laughed, but did not answer anything specific, mentally asking herself if she had now made a mistake. If she thinks so, her brother's apologies were not very sincere, but she still does not know why to forgive him. These brother and sister undoubtedly quarreled quite seriously, but the true reason could not be found out. Renaga's reaction confirms this, and at the same moment, the worried man asked if she was in order. After all, earlier she firmly stated that she would not forgive him for anything, but now she behaves like nothing. Therefore, she sent only letters, and in general, he thought that she would not even answer them, but was mistaken. The girl thought that she was not the former Liana, so that relations with all people around will involuntarily change. Smiling, she said that after she woke up after the attack, she had to realize a lot. Renag did not answer, as a friend of Liana said that she was interested in something, after which she asked whether to visit their duke. The overseer replied that he should, but there is a variation, that he would not visit. But more accurately, now it will not work. The girl asked why, deep down, begging Henry not to come, so as not to create problems. Renag did not know where to start, after which he stated that, firstly, her brother arrived on the imperial carriage. Liana was dumbfounded by this news, asking himself why he did it at all, as if on purpose. It also seemed to them that he had arrived too quickly. He lent the imperial carriage, right when she was traveling. The imperial ambassador became a witness. So soon the news came to his ears, and he was furious. He probably thinks that her brother is going to do something in the sacred camber cam. Liana could not believe it. She sincerely did not understand why he did this, because she was sure that her brother originally arrived to visit her. Renag said that the Duke is a devoted servant of the Emperor, so visiting his place under his eyes for him inappropriately. Liana did not answer anything concrete, asking herself whether everything will happen, because you never know that the Duke would embrace in the head. And yet Renag was not sure that he would not appear, because the Duke always came on a day of visits, not missing him. Liana was not surprised, because this is such a great chance to harm Dorian, to once again humiliate him. In addition, the last time they contacted, he clearly stated that he would surely visit his son. In any case, the prison is obliged to open the doors to the Duke at any time when he wants, regardless of the situation. Liana wanted to ask to hide Dorian during the event, but could not, because the situation was more difficult. When the conversation was over, Renag suddenly stopped her, stuttering that she was finally appointed. After asking what was being discussed, the man replied that it was about the date of her release. She would leave the prison after 10 days. At that very moment, the smile disappeared from Liana's face when she politely thanked him for the information provided. She thought that everything was in order, because in theory, she will have time to finish absolutely all things before liberation. If you believe the words of Renaga, the probability that the Duke of Henry arrives is 50%, which means it all depends on the case. As Luck would have a fire right now, she cannot even see Dorian, not to hide. Sitting in her cell, she tried to force him to work, when she suddenly felt that he had vibrated. At first she was frightened, but suddenly a familiar voice was heard, which very much asked for forgiveness for the last time. When asked if she was worried, Liana answered in the affirmative, because he suddenly disappeared. Otherwise, it could not be. The guy said that he has a very urgent information that concerns the prisoner with whom she is playing. The girl knew that Grrrr was already knowing a lot, but still asked him to continue. The guy said that he was the heir to the Duke Henry, and by status, he is not the person with whom you can communicate like her. Liana thought with a smile that it was difficult to pretend to be unknown, when suddenly Grrrr stated that there was a problem. It consists in the fact that the father of this prisoner will soon arrive, and everything needs to be done so that he does not suspect anything. The girl agreed, thinking that his physical changes, when they happen, was difficult not to notice. The knights who bring her food, it seems, until they encountered him, well, until that time he was just lucky. All this is just a matter of time. When someone notices everything, the rumors will immediately reach the prison watchman. When this happens, none of them will be greeted, Liana. How accurately his words sound about Renaga. Suddenly, Grrrr asked why she was so calm, but everything was not so at all, and she was ready for this. The guy added that there was no reaction to the personality of the prisoner, and she is a very unusual person. Then he proposed 2 options for the development of events, and one of them was to erase all traces of magic at the prisoner, or make the prisoner's father could not visit him, and this can be done by many ways. True, the first option is impossible, due to the fact that magic on it is generally impossible to cancel. Liana replied that they had only one option left, after which she asked if there were ideas on how to do it. Grrrr answered in the affirmative, explaining that the Duke of Henry visits his son only when he is healthy. The girl was shocked that when Dorian was unwell, her father comes and says that his work has already been completed, and vice versa, if he feels bad, does not visit, so he will give her a potion that causes a temporary disease. The guy added that a lie would not work with the Duke about any cold, and a real cold too. They need to achieve severe heat or vomiting with blood. In general, something that seems quite serious to the knight. Liana thought that too cruel to force him to specially get sick, for the sake of the person closest to Dorian. Grrrr said that perhaps she did not like this idea, but they should be confident in Luck. But Liana agreed. But in turn, she asked him to promise that in the end everything would be fine with Dorian, and he would be healthy. As a person who wiped his blood and wore him medicine, she has the right to receive such a promise. After all, he so easily said about severe heat and vomiting with blood that he really doesn't care about his pain. Grrrr replied that he promises, simultaneously asking her to understand that this is the only way to protect his lordship. The girl was surprised that he sharply switched to respectful communication, after which she closed his eyes and agreed. He said that it was not even surprised that he began to call a person differently. Liana immediately answered. He revealed his personality, interested in his well-being. Only the fool would not immediately guess about their connection. Just Jira literally admitted who he was actually, and Liana mockingly said that it was unexpected. The guy said that he realized that he was so careless about the rand of this man because he himself did not feel pain. He only believed in his bestial power. Liana remembered that the book spoke about his animal abilities, but they will appear only after he meets the main character, and then his awareness will come. Suddenly, the girl asked if the effect could be minimal. Grrrrr did not understand the point. She explained that she would tell the knights that Dorian is sick, because the main thing is that the head of the prison would learn about this. Grrrr did not quite understand what she was talking about, but believed her, so she can do as she considers necessary. Nevertheless, if something goes wrong, in her interests, it is to slander. Liana thought that he was making herself a wise guy. The guy said that the X day would take place in 2 days, so he would give the potion tomorrow. She asked how. Grrrr explained that she was not the only one who was able to bribe knights. The girl did not expect this from him. Just in case, she decided to say that this method would not work with anyone except her, so there is little hope. Soon they will be released from prison, but this does not mean that the Duke's visits would stop, and Grrrr asked not to worry. When the girl received the medicine, she thought that the stairs to the underground floor should already be repaired. Therefore, now she needs to give Dorian this medicine as soon as possible, hoping that everything will go smoothly. When I was left one day before visits, Sally enthusiastically said that in this dress, Liana is just a beauty. They decided to try on the outfits in advance, and the friend decided that she would put it on tomorrow, and her friend only laughed. A little later, she confidently headed for the camera of Dorian and asked if she could go now. The knights immediately let the girl. After that, she discovered that the guy was already sleeping, and surprisingly calm. Suddenly, Dorian opened his eyes and immediately attacked a girl who immediately felt déjà vu. From a reddened face and tears in his eyes, he stated that he was very bored. But again, she was just his next dream. He noticed that the clothes were not the same as usual, and Liana remembered that she had to rush, and she did not change clothes. The guy said that it was very beautiful, after which he asked if she would leave him in a dream, as she left in reality. And suddenly, he brought his face closer to her, asking him to promise that he would not leave, and this time touch his lips. The girl's eyes widened when she mentally asked that he had done all this time in a dream there, in a dream. Liana right now tried to focus on another, thinking that now she was more like an animal, more of them. She said that she would come soon, more precisely, asked to convey this to the knights. But, apparently, the message did not reach. She did not know whether he sat all the time in the hope that she would appear, although the appearance here for her means nothing. Suddenly, she felt the tears of a guy who tried to gather her thoughts dripped on her face. Until he went further, the girl decided to stop him. But Dorian asked if she wanted to say that he would leave him here. The guy suggested that he was no longer interesting to her, but Liana began to shake him, that he would not leave him, and asked to calm down. Clutching her hand to his cheek, he asked what he was guilty of, then promised that he would correct everything. When the girl moved away from him, who said that he was too close to her, and he asked if it was impossible to be close. Suddenly, Liana screamed him to wake up, but he replied that he did not want, because then she would immediately disappear. The girl replied that they were not in a dream, and he should recover. Dorian was dumbfounded, that she was not sleeping now. Liana looked irritable, when suddenly she smiled sharply and touched his nose, asking if he missed her. The guy blushed and answered in the affirmative, after which he uncertainly asked him to let his cheek go because he was embarrassed. The girl replied that she did not want, and he himself holds her sleeve, so why she should first remove her hand. Suddenly, Dorian asked whether it was impossible to keep her. Liana was dumbfounded that he had so abruptly switched to an official tone. Suddenly, the guy frowned, saying that she could not keep his promise, so he could hold her a little. Liana realized that he decided to quarrel, but softened the damage with the help of a polite appeal. It was funny. She realized that he liked so much that even in a dream he only thinks of her. And now she understood something else. She became quite attached to him during this time, although she tried not to reduce the distance between them. Then she decided to talk about what had met with her brother the day before yesterday, and this meeting was very strange for her. Liana thought that he was too affectionately towards her, his sister, and said that he put her on her cheek, and they stood very close to each other. Maybe in this world it is normal, but she was a little uncomfortable. At the same time, he touched her hands with his lips. Hearing this, Dorian's face immediately frowned, and he shuddered. If you think about it, Renag did this too. And perhaps this is just a matter of ethics, but you cannot say for sure. All the prisoners with whom she talked about this has a brother or sister, but their relationship is alien. Liana said that she used to believe that she had no brother, but then he suddenly appeared, albeit in letters. She added that, if you think about it, he is younger than her, so the younger brother is suitable, but Dorian replied that he did not want to be. The girl was surprised to ask whether he knew what it means to choose a brother, because she did not know the meaning of the word. The guy blushed, loudly replied that he knows what this means, because Merida once told him about it. Suddenly, the guy turned to her, saying that when she gave him cookies, they kept it like this. He took her hand. The girl asked if he liked this, but Dorian replied that the matter was different. He tried to say that therefore could not be a brother, but Liana asked if she taught him to Merida. She asked to listen carefully, even if her brother and sister, even friends like this, does not mean that you can't hold hands. At that very moment, the guy suddenly hugged her, saying that Merida said that he could not be done like that. Then he raised his head, with hope, asking if he could do that, hoping that the girl would allow him to do this. Liana asked in shock where he learned this. He replied that Merida told how to do it. With trembling hands, Dorian asked that if he didn't do that, would he be a brother for her? The girl, in turn, asked why he was so shaking, when suddenly, with horror, she noticed a wound on his body. Apparently, he does not know that pain is bad, so she said that if they hurt, let him not say that in order. And even if now there is no way to do anything with pain, you need to wait for the case when the opportunity appears. It doesn't matter whether it is physical pain or mental. If it hurts, you must definitely talk about it, and the rest too. The girl asked him to repeat after her that I didn't want to have words. Dorian immediately did it, said that she would remember. The next second, a satisfied smile appeared on his face, and he thanked her for this lesson. His attitude towards her was the only one, yet she is the only person in his current circle of communication. But rare conversations with him are all that she can do for him, so she asked not to become attached to her. She used to say that he did not eat everything that they give him, because anyone can deceive him and stick a knife into the back. Suddenly, the guy replied that he did not want to, explained that she herself said to say no if she does not want something. Liana smiled, saying that he was studying quickly, but still this is true, so he needs to remember this. Here, for example, today, she came to do something bad for him too. She checked her pocket where the bottle was lying. Dorian replied that if, thanks to this, she does not leave him, she can do bad as much as she likes, and he doesn't care. The girl said that, what would say now? But he should try not to forgive the one who imprisoned him here. She says this, but in the plot the day will come when Dorian forgives her father. But she would not want this. It is not surprising, with such a look, and to the speaking, that the one to whom he belongs is not able to offend anyone. Then she asked him to forget about it, and Dorian said that since she wants it, he would not forgive. Suddenly, the girl admitted that she would be released soon, but the guy did not quite understand what this might mean. When Liana explained that soon she would leave the prison, Dorian's eyes widened from shock and unbelief. At first, Liana was not sure, but this is possible. It will most likely be exactly that if you follow the plot. Nevertheless, Dorian will become the most noble person in the country. But this will not happen soon, but it will definitely happen. Although she, as it was clarified, has a good social status. However, their families are very attended by each other. She is not going to how her brother becomes the heiress of her family and participate in the life of secular society. It would be much better to buy somewhere a house in the forest and live there to restore Salushki after the prison. Liana sighed heavily and said that this evil would be their last interaction, which very upset the guy. He could not believe that this was the last meeting, and she understood that for him it was most likely shocking. The girl went to the exit, but the guy asked her not to leave, because she did not want her to leave him alone. Liana replied that she did not leave for now. She just wants to lean towards the wall, as she usually does here. But the guy said that he was not about now, but in general, when suddenly the girl noticed that she accidentally pricked something about something. Turning around, they were surprised to notice a huge rose, which consisted of magic and glowed quite brightly. At that very moment, a portal appeared in this place, from which chains burst, which immediately shot the girl. Without wasting time, the guy rushed to her and hugged her to protect her. But such an action could help. When they dragged them inside, they opened their eyes, looking around and trying to understand what kind of strange place it was. First of all, Liana asked Dorian with worried whether he was in order. He answered in the affirmative, because she was nearby. The girl asked where they were, and whether he knew that there was such a passage in his cell. But he was also surprised. Her eyes widened when she noticed a chain on the guy's wrist, but he also did not know where she came from. Then Liana realized that under such circumstances, she could not give Dorian the potion, as she planned. And now she tried to understand what would happen if someone learns about what had happened, immediately thinking about Renaga. Although this was not the worst, because if the Duke himself finds out, then he would not leave it so simply and will begin to understand. If they think that all an accident is a problem, if they think that Dorian has awakened is also a problem. Suddenly, she noticed that the light did not go from the chain to which Dorian was chained. Perhaps she leads to the exit. The girl showed him the direction that would go there now, then return. But the guy dissuaded her from this venture. With a frightened look, he asked to go there together. Liana had no choice but to agree to this. After a couple of minutes, Dorian with a smile on his face thought that they were holding hands, albeit under such circumstances. Having picked up the lamp along the road, Liana decided to ask if he had heard anything like this about this prison. Dorian replied that from his father. The girl added that if he did not want to tell, then it was not necessary, but he was ready. Father said that this is a very ancient place, unimaginably ancient, and that it was created for the sake of something important. Liana did not understand what was discussed, but, in principle, holding prisoners is perfect for the description. She remembered the words of the Pallidus, who said that in their empire there are 3 special things that are not like. At that time, the man also mentioned the prison of Cambrax, which, as it turned out, kept secrets for a long time. Liana asked what specifically means the phrase of ancient times. Dorian replied that this was the time before the birth of the country. The girl was surprised when the guy explained that he knew a little, but he was told about this father and Merida. The father also said that this was the time of dawn of roses. Liana remembered the roses that extol the names of the 5 duchies. With a thoughtful look, the girl realized that we are talking about duchy, because otherwise there is no sense in all this. Dorian added that the one who belongs to one of the roses could become a king. His father said that it would be better. Liana said that now there is an emperor in the country. Well, is the king and the emperor not the same thing? And what's the difference? Dorian replied that there is a difference. One of them rules only over roses. But he himself does not understand what this means. He also heard his father said that he must find him, but the meaning of these words remained a mystery. Liana thought that since she should then, she hadn't found it yet, and she would not find how much she remembers the novel. This was not in the book, although from a novel with a rating of 18+, you can expect everything you want, even such plot holes. Then she decided to stop talking about the Duke, deciding to abruptly change the topic, after which she turned to the guy. She said that if a girl next to him carries a heavy object, you must definitely help her with this. Dorian took it in his own way, after which he raised the girl in his arms, although she did not expect him to do this. A shock was written on her face when she stated that she needed to bear her, not her, and how he even thought of that. With burning eyes, the guy said that she herself said that she needed to bear. She replied that she had not meant. Suddenly smiled. I said that she was so light, but it was hard for her, after which he decided to remember the words she said. The girl clarified that it was he is strong, after which she asked to put her on the ground, but he did not want to do this. She herself said that if he did not want something, then I must say, Liana asked not to use it against her. When they went further, Liana crossed some line, after which they suddenly blinded a very bright light. When the girl opened her eyes, she was surprised to notice the altar in front of her. He decided that there was some kind of sect. At that very moment, Dorian pointed out to the wall, said that that part was like a rose. The girl agreed with him. She found that there are 5 butons of roses, But the red rose seems to not have enough petal, and this is clearly for a reason. Also, next to the red rose, there was something resembling an animal, although it looked rather strange. Then they found that the yellow rose was whole, and nearby a clear drawing that looked like a snake. They drew attention to the black rose, realizing that she seemed to be broken, and an eagle flaunted next to her. Liana concluded that she looked like someone specially broke her, but it is not clear why this was done. The white rose, which they noticed, does not look very as if it was sick and parasites are devouring it, and there was a bear nearby. Suddenly, the girl drew attention to the surprised expression on Dorian's face, who noticed something in the middle. He explained that when looking at strange sensations appear, Liana also thought that it was as if they had been cut out of the wall. You can see with the naked look that there was a blue rose, after which the girl immediately became clear. This is what the Baron spoke about, the symbols of the 5 duchies, and the red rose was Henry, as if Dorian also concerned. While all rose petals on his body have not disappeared, he must find his companion, and if he can't, he will die. The fresco seemed to reflect his condition, but the question arose whether each flower belonged to individuals. White rose belongs to the main character of the novel, black to Chisera. It was not clear why they were in such a terrible state. This world is focused on the main characters, and the state of flowers symbolizes what happened to the main characters. This means that the fresco for her is a hint, because the incidents with the effect of butterflies can affect it. Liana decided to remember her existence, while Dorian was inquiringly observed by her expression. When asked if something interesting is visible and something else, the guy replied that they seem to have stumbled to a dead end. Then the girl began to wonder if there is a way out at all, and something should be done with the chain on the hand of Dorian. Liana said that he was all red, and he shouted that he had not thought about anything strange. She replied that she had not said anything yet. Suddenly, after she grabbed his hand, they hit them with a small discharge only, and Dorian's chain broke. Liana could not understand what had just happened, after which she told the guy that he should not lose consciousness now. The shaking of the land that they felt was clearly not good, when suddenly Dorian smiled and greeted the mistress. The girl immediately asked why she switched, after which she replied that she asked to call her by name and release her hand. Then she stated that there was no time to seduce her, and she had to run, and the guy asked how she realized that he was seducing her. At that very moment, he raised her in his arms, asked how to seduce now. Such a statement dumbfounded her. Unable to stand it, Liana began to scream loudly and asks if he wants to be covered with insults, because everything goes to this. Suddenly, there was a loud sound, and a stone fell next to them. The girl said that they should not be hesitated and needed to run. But he decided not to let her go, because she herself asked to bear her, after which he rushed to the place where they came from. Liana suggested that the way out would now close, noting that this is not a sensation, and the tunnel is narrowing ahead. She added that they had no choice but to run, after which she asked if he could accelerate. After a couple of seconds, they lay on the floor in the Dorian chamber, while the portal completely and without a trace closed without a trace. Liana stunnedly jumped up from her place, thinking that the portal was gone, but they were lucky that they did not come across. They were able to return safely, but the situation decently spent her time here. The girl thought that someone could come soon, so it was necessary to give him a potion as soon as possible until it was too late. Grabbing the guy by the breast, she asked to listen to him carefully, saying that she would do something bad now. Showing him a small bottle, she asked him to drink this immediately, and when he drinks, she would get sick. Suddenly, Dorian smiled, answering whether she would remain with him in return for this, because she remembers that she said that she would leave him. Liana again asked to drink, and in return, she promises that it would be near until he completely recovers. With a smile on his face, the guy asked him to give him a drink, but only from her mouth. Such a request dumbfounded the girl. Suddenly, she heard that in their direction, it seems, someone was going, most likely. These were knights rushing here. At that very moment, Dorian said that he would drink it only when fulfilling the conditions he voiced, and nothing else. Liana thought that every second on the account, and as soon as the knights arrived, the whole plan can be considered failed. Then she asked the guy in the future not to regret it, after which she filled her mouth with a potion and kissed him. Without wasting time, she began to pour a potion into him through a kiss, thinking that now it was forced by a measure. At that moment, she thought that he was to blame for everything, because all this time she kept the distance between them. He himself began this, so he himself was to blame. After she poured the potion, they enjoyed a kiss for some time. The girl was surprised that this moment dragged on for a while, because of which she immediately became embarrassed. When she realized that Dorian drank a potion, she noticed that he decided to go further, and for some reason unfastened the button. At that very moment, Liana pushed him, and the guy asked what to do when something liked so much that he wanted to destroy everything. It seemed to her that he had Urip a voice, after which she looked away, saying that he could do what she wanted. At that very moment, he began to kiss her neck, but Liana pushed him in shock, saying that this was quite enough. Suddenly, she felt that something was wrong with his body, hearing at that very moment that the steps were very close. Holding him by the cheeks, Liana realized that his body was reduced again, and literally in a moment, which is very good. Looking at his face, she realized that the conscious Dorian completely dispersed, but he could remember this kiss. Suddenly, he grabbed her hand, asking not to leave, because he had not yet done, which he wanted, thereby shocked Liana. The guy approached her face, after which he kissed again, and the girl felt that her heart would jump out now. The third time she pushed him away, realizing that the nights were very close, and she could not lose a minute. Suddenly, the girl noticed that Dorian suddenly lost consciousness, lowering her head on her knees, scaring her. She felt that his forehead was on, which means that magic began to act. At the same moment, the knight called out to her. It was a senior knight. They had already seen each other several times. At that moment, the man greeted her. Usually it does not matter how much she sits here, because the knights do not go inside. But now the overseer caused her. He reported that time to visit this place again, and she must understand what was happening when he handed these words. Liana replied that she understood everything, after which she asked if he had heard a strange sound at all recently. She explained with a smile that this sound was like the rumble of a huge cobblestone, but then she heard a negative answer. This place is underground, so even the sound of falling drops can echo quite loudly. Liana did not understand why there was no noise here, and the earthquake was not felt, I would like to know. Then she drew attention to Dorian, telling the knight that the prisoner seemed very ill. Her heart hurts due to the fact that he had to hurt him, but the goal was achieved, because her father would not harm him. The girl explained that for no reason he fell unconscious. The knight said that he was under special supervision. Therefore, he urgently needs to report this about this, after which he asked if she would wait a bit. She agreed. After that, Liana sighed in relief, thinking that everything was the most difficult behind, and now it remains only to wait. She also needed to take care of their main character, after which she said that she would fulfill her promise. In the evening of the same day, Liana changed clothes due to the fact that she sweated, knowing that Dorian's heat had not slept so far. At the same time, Sally said that Liana was very walking this dress, although he herself was the one who lent him. Inspecting the hall with the guests, the girl thought that soon the event was already approaching her logical conclusion. Then she turned to Pallidus and Sally, saying with an uncertain look that she wanted to ask them something. Having held out a black scarf in them, she asked that this. The man replied that, obviously, this was a scarf with an embroidered coat of arms. However, it was a scarf that a brother gave her, and this means that now she can find out who her family is. Therefore, she decided to ask a question number 2, with a smile, asking who exactly belongs to this coat of arms. The man asked if Ainta was an opportunity. Sally added what looked like the truth, because she had exactly seen this coat of arms. Then she concluded that Liana is Ainta. The answer surprised her, since she heard a lot about this family. Pilatus, with a smart look, said that the Ainta family is one of their candidates, and was very respected in their circles. Suddenly, Sally asked the defense, which he thought about because they found out the answer, but he answered ambiguously. Then, he suggested with a thoughtful look that it seems to him that Liana is from a more high-ranking family. Sally said that in practice, it was found that his intuition can be trusted, but Ainta is a great family. The man agreed, but added that Chuika suggests that Liana is not Ainte. Perhaps she lets him down. With a smile, she said that he was a fraudster sitting in prison, so that it was possible she realized that from the Ainte family. But it was not clear whether this family was subordinate to Caesar, because nothing was said about this in the novel. In addition, This name seemed to her some kind of stranger. At the same moment, the guard said that the event was over. Suddenly, Sally asked if her brother gave her this scarf. Hearing an affirmative answer, she said that it was strange. Simply, the acquaintance of her mother's once visited the Ainta family. She said that they only have a daughter in their family. Then she added that she probably got something, because she still has a brother. But this settled doubts about Liana. The plan with Grrrr worked perfectly, and the Duke of Henry refused a visit to Dorian, referring to his health. She learned about this from Renaga when she met him after the next call. But Dorian is sick for too long. She even had the idea that the Duke Dorian was less affected than from this long-term illness. She shouted to Grrrr that he should have a little cheer, but several days had already passed since the potion of the potion. The guy said that he was sure that he had made the potion right, and the girl was surprised that he himself was confused. He said that this was strange, because the power of the potion was definitely twisted for several days. Perhaps someone intervened? She seemed to say that he is decreasing. It increases, perhaps. These changes are guilty. They greatly tire the body. Therefore, it is slowly coping with the disease. But it should have taken into account this. Grrrr replied that everything was for the benefit of the master. Sighing heavily, Liana asked if he had a plan of correction. After a little thought, the magician replied that they could only wait, because only the Duke himself can overcome this disease. They can hope that he would come out. It depressed Liana, but this does not mean that she did not care. Then she said that if something unusual happens, he would contact him. He replied that she would be in touch only after 2 days. The girl was a little upset by such a layout of events when she again came to the camera to Dorian while he was sleeping. She asked him to tolerate a little more, and the day will come when he would break the curse and become happy. The next day, Dorian recovered, but there was no trace of the disease. He sat on his knees, welcoming the girl. Liana was surprised that he was in full health, after which she asked if she could touch his forehead. She felt that the heat was really asleep. In just a day, the symptoms disappeared without a trace. This is also the effect of changes. But when she sat next to him, Dorian was noticeably scared, after which he crawled away from her several meters. When she asked why he moved, the guy turned red and asked what her recent actions were mean. Liana immediately realized that he was talking about a kiss, after which she tried to understand how it would be better for him to explain it. Hearing barking, she thought that he had specially turned into a dog to avoid this conversation. Starting to stretch his cheeks, the girl said that he ran away, although he asked the question, and to do so ugly. Then she added that the reason for his redness was clear to her, because he clearly remembered their spontaneous kiss. Suddenly, this picture also surfaced before her eyes, after which Liana thought that it would be better if he would not remember this. He will not believe if she says that it was a dream, so she asked him to remember what she would say now. If after the first kiss after the year he will not be able to kiss the same person, then he will not meet him. It was a rather cruel deception, because of which she mentally apologized, deciding that she was a little infected with impudence. Suddenly, the guy asked if this was true. His father told him that if he was obedient, he would be pulled out in a year. Then, he confidently stated that in a year, on the day of his release, he wants to meet her again. She did not understand how he could be like that, after which she stated that what she said was not true, pure lie. A kiss in a year is not a guarantor that they will ever meet. But Dorian replied that it doesn't matter. Liana said that maybe she would be very far from here, but the guy still begged her to come to him. Smiling, the girl replied that, so be it, thinking that doing this in principle is not so difficult. The only question is, they fulfilled the conditions for meeting on his part, because in fact, not everything was so smooth. In the story that she knows, the Duke of Henry will not release his son, even despite his good behavior. She agreed to the meeting, giving false hope, instead of saying that he would not come out of here on time. Her heart began to tremble from his words, but thanks to her selfishness, she was able to ignore it. Apologizing, she left his camera, and a few days later, the very day of her release came. Sitting in her cell, Liana listened to how Grrrr told her that she had heard that she was released, and she did not even tell him. It seemed offensive to the guy, but the girl was surprised, because on her part, everything turned out to be completely different. He told this to the man who forced her, that is, a fragile girl, in the middle of the night to go to the underground part of the prison. She is very interested in how he found out about her release, but she decided not to ask him directly. Suddenly, she was surprised to ask if he would give her this bracelet. Grrrr replied that this was a gift. Suddenly, she remembered that it was he who helped destroy the chains when they were in that strange place. Grrrr explained that magic artifacts may have malfunctions in a collision with other artifacts. He decided to ask what exactly happened and whether they fought with the overseer. With this monster, Liana sighed. Because he is an assistant to the main villain in the novel, so he willingly believed that he is a real monster. The girl did not answer anything specific, saying that it doesn't matter, because now she really leaves here. The guy replied that the young gentleman could not leave this place for several years, unlike her. She was sad when she asked if he would be able to go out in a year, to which she heard a negative answer. The guy explained that, until he completely wakes up, he will never be able to free himself, no matter how he wanted. And suddenly, for some reason, her release was pushed back by 3 months, which also remained a mystery. As a result, Dorian did not visit Dorian during this time, because he was sure that she had been not here a long time ago. And so, the day of her liberation came again. Then she went into the hall to say goodbye to Pallidus and Sally. They sobbed and asked not to forget about their friendship. Sally added that How would get out of prison, immediately go to her. She also did not attend Renaga. Nevertheless, they have an agreement that she should spend the same amount of time with him. She was worried that he would force her to see him. But after her refusal, the invitation was no longer received. She considered that this was an amazingly educated man. After farewell, Liana went with the knight to the exit. Walking along the corridor, the girl decided to ask the knight if she could finally look somewhere. Once in a dark cell, Liana greeted Dorian, who could not believe that she had come again. Stepping closer, the girl said that she came to say goodbye to him, while the guy silently looked at her. When he began to bark, she said that she wanted to spend the last conversation on the human. But even better, she already said this. She will repeat, so that henceforth he trusts me with people with whom he does not have a deep connection. He began to beat the barrier with his hands, while Liana invited him to try not to forgive the person that he locked him here. And she also likes his kindness, but in which case you can stay and bad? After that, she said goodbye to him. Suddenly, Dorian managed to break the barrier and grab her hand, asking if she remembers about her promise. He said that they would see in a year, and Liana replied that if he was released in a year, then without problems. When she left the walls of the prison, she thought that her time of being here flew surprisingly quickly. The girl held a letter in which it was said that her brother would come for her and would be expected near the prison. The letter said that he would come for her on the day of liberation, and she will finally find out what her brother looks like. At that very moment, the guy approached her, greeting her and calling his beautiful sister as a flower. Her eyes widened when she thought that not a supporter of the Henry, a brunette, and an incredible handsome man, there is only one. She named his name, and at the same moment, she received a huge bouquet of flowers and congratulations on liberation. Suddenly, she was shocked while she was trying to process the information, and at that time, her brother looked at her with a smile. She could not believe that her brother was the main villain of the novel, Chase. The cry of shock himself escaped from her lips. A little later, sitting in a carriage, she thought that it was not for nothing that she had doubts about Ainta, because she did not belong to them. Lena Ainta sounded very bad, when suddenly the girl heard a question from Chézère, whether she was offended at him. Looking into his eyes, she noticed a smile, after which she heard a new question if he could already say that he was missing. With an indifferent look, she watched the friendly behavior of her brother, who tried to talk to her. He said that he would like to come better on the wagon, so that it would be more convenient for her, for that, and for 16 horses. At that very moment, Liana tried to present that very wagon on 16 horses, but she did not succeed. He turned it into his head. She decided to assume that this was the norm, when she suddenly heard the question whether she was bored to go. The chaser continued to ask if everything suits her now, and whether to open the top of the carriage for a short while. The girl replied that she would be cold, to which the guy with a smile said that she had forgotten that she was sensitive to cold. Then he suggested ordering the knight to arrange a performance, but Liana replied that they should not torment them. Brother with a smile stated that she had not changed at all, although he imagined that if he had still ordered to arrange it, he was sure that all her attention would be riveted to the coaches, which would be very unpleasant for him. Liana tried to follow the course of his thoughts, but unsuccessfully, not imagining what was happening in his head. They got to the estate in the late afternoon, but the carriage stood in the same place for a long time. Liana fell asleep, but when she opened her eyes, Chesir immediately asked if she woke up. She was surprised that they had already arrived. When asked when, the guy replied that about an hour ago, the girl was surprised that he had not woke her before. With a sweet smile on his face, he explained that she was sleeping too sweetly to wake her, and how to interfere. Liana seemed strange, because in the original, Chesira definitely was not so friendly. After that, he helped her get out of the carriage, and the girl immediately began to look at the estate with an curious look. She still could not believe that the truth is Dormalite, but now everything is definitely converging. Suddenly, Liana decided to ask her brother if he remembered a scarf who gave her at their first meeting in prison. She was wondering why he gave her a scarf with the emblem of Ante. Cheeser replied that they had the best fabric manufacturers. Then he turned around and stated that in no case could he give her a poor quality scarf, unworthy of her. Standing in front of the door, Cheeser held out her hand and asked if she was ready to enter her house with him. At that very moment, the girl asked herself, as if a real Liana would behave, being in this situation. Suddenly, she remembered Dorian, because of which she bit her lip, realizing that she had no time to think. After that, she gave an affirmative answer, passing by her brother with a smug look, allegedly ignoring him. A few minutes later, they walked along huge corridors. With every step, Liana noticed something strange. Listening to the loud sound of her steps, she thought that the residence was too quiet, which was very unusual. Not a single person was visible, and she could not believe that in such a room it was in principle possible. Having stopped about one of the hundreds of the doors, Cheeser announced that here her new chambers, where she could relax. Entering the room, he asked if she liked the new bedroom, adding that the old ones could no longer be used. Looking at him, Liana replied that she liked it, but she was more interested in why the old could not be used. At that very moment, Chezer smiled and said that the incident would not happen again, and now she could relax. When the girl sank to the bed, the guy left the room with a slow step, leaving his sister alone. After that, he went to the hall, where he announced his subordinates that his dear sister had finally returned home. The servants gave him honor, hearing how he told the killers that they could at least refrain from paying a visit at least today. At that moment, he got rid of unwanted guests, because of which they began to scream, and Liana thought what it seemed to her. Then she plopped down on the bed, thinking that it was very soft here, after which she said goodbye to the back of the back from the hard bunk. Turning to her side, the girl closed her eyes, thinking that because of a long trip in the carriage, she really wants to sleep. Her last thought was that Dorian was now on the cold floor of the underground chamber when she suddenly opened her eyes. Rising, she thought she was in a dream, when she suddenly found a friend of a sleeping guy next to her. She could not believe that Dorian was lying a meter away from her, who slept with a strong sleep, not suspecting her visit. Liana sadly realized that this was only a dream, and it is unfortunate that she really could not be next to him now. The girl said that he was already bored, when suddenly the guy woke up and jumped, surprised to notice the familiar person. Without wasting time, he immediately hugged her, while Liana tried to realize that this dream was very realistic. Dorian immediately cried, simultaneously asking if it was true, not believing that he could see her so soon. Liana was dumbfounded, after which she touched his cheek and asked not to cry, adding that now everything is fine. She was sorry that she could not touch him. Then she said that she successfully reached the house, and her brother was very kind to her. Therefore, he may not worry about her and not think about her, even despite the fact that she herself is worried about him. Suddenly, the guy shouted loudly what he did not want. For the coming year, he would never forget about her for a minute. At that very moment, the girl woke up, thinking that it was a too believable dream, similar to reality. She became interested if in a year, if she asks to visit the prison, whether she would let her visit Dorian. If not, you will have to escape from the house, because there is nothing more than there is nothing but to fulfill your promise. While Liana was thinking about this, she did not even know that now she was watching her, the barren spirit of a wild cat. A few days later, a heavy rain collapsed on the estate, during which all the inhabitants remained inside. The girl tried to live an ordinary life, simultaneously watching Chasir and servants who always surrounded her. Liana sat in the office, making notes, introducing a pen on a sheet of paper, simultaneously trying to miss anything. At that very moment, one of the maids bowed, after which she said goodbye to her, until the next reception of her meal. The girls also seemed strange that Cheeser and all the servants here were very ordinary, and inconsistent was felt. This place does not at all look like a villain's house, where everyone was friendly with her and always tried to please her. Even the feeling is created that she is in a dream, but she still decided to understand the events of the original novel. She decided to go in order, remembering that the prisoner, who captured the hand of the main character, immediately died. The man who met with the main character met, after a while, sent straight to hard labor. The journalist, who tried to give out the secrets of the main character, suddenly became disabled for unknown reasons. The aristocrat, who looked after the main character, died a mysterious death, which was never disclosed. The villain concluded the main character in custody, which hid the hatred of him. People blew up his residence. The main character escaped, and all these incidents occurred after the liberation of the main character from prison. The culprit of all this was César Dormelit, who was now trying to look like a sweet and good-natured brother. With trembling hands, Liana held a sheet of paper, saying that this novel 18 plus was not only because of erotic scenes. She realized that it was bad because she treated everything too carefree, practically forgetting about the most important thing. She was so carried away by the plot that she forgot to herself, and there were many factors that prevented her from thinking about it. Now is not the time to worry about the main character, because her own life was in danger, and this should be afraid. While she was in prison, César walked well in the plot. He will be alive, but the residents will fly to pieces. Liana thought that this was enough information so far, after which she dipped the sheet into a plate of water. Having destroyed her notes, she firmly decided that it was time to leave this estate as soon as possible before the explosion. The next day, when the girl was sitting on the couch, Chaser approached her from behind and asked if she had slept. Liana replied that it was late for this question, because now, 2 o'clock a day, his brother replied with a smile that she realized his mistake, and he wanted to know if everything was fine with her. She answered indifferently that how he could see, she is in perfect order. Then he said that he wanted to show her something. Liana replied that she had a slight indigestion, and it was difficult to move. Then she added that he probably had a lot of things, but the guy replied that she could just help her if it was hard. Without warning, he grabbed his sister in his arms, saying that now it would be much easier for her to move. Sternly looking at the guy, she stated that it was worth asking permission before taking her in her arms. Going into the corridor, Cheeser replied that there was still no other way out of the situation, since he was obliged to show her something. Then he added with a smile that he always has time for her from now on, and she can turn to him at any moment. His last words was that he no longer wants to regret. These words made the girl think about it. Looking at his face, she could not understand what exactly he was talking about, and what she did not want to regret, because of which she became interested. A few minutes later, they sat on the couch, looking at how the maids put various boxes and bundles in front of them. The guest said that for them, the honor of being invited by them, although Liana did not understand that this was so special. She began to say that this dress arrived at them from the other side of the sea, and it is very exclusive. In his design, one can notice the only pink diamond in the world, and in these shoes how much they go, legs do not hurt. Thanks to the use of special fabric in this dress, it could not knot in the rain, which was very practical. When the girl listed all the advantages of her goods, Cheeser asked her sister what she was thinking about it. With a suspicious look, Liana asked why this was all that brother replied, that the old things burned, so new things were needed. Then, he again asked if she liked anything from this, after which the girl began to carefully study the jewelry. A few seconds later, Liana lowered her head from these, that she did not like anything, smiling noticeably. At that very moment, the smile disappeared from the face of Chemiser, and the maid, according to his face expression, realized what to do. When asked what they are doing, the guy replied that they were preparing things to emit, since none of them came up for his sister. Taking her hand, he added that there are still many goods, so they will certainly find exactly what she will like. If there is no one here, it will be somewhere else, because he is ready to put at her feet anything of the world that she wants. Having decided that it was impossible to be afraid, Liana said that in this case, she wanted it. From here I was going here, pointing to a huge area. The guest, with a smile, stated that this is an excellent choice, because only the best products are provided in their salon. Then she invited her to try on new clothes, and Chemister immediately supported her. I wish she to agree. In the next 20 minutes, the maids fiddled around Liana, helping her put on and fasten a new dress. Now she is fully aware of the fact that she is Cheezer's sister, not imagining how much money all this can cost. She is too lazy to choose, so she just indicated everything, and now she feels guilty before Dorian for a similar act. After all, she, the one to whom he became so attached, feels more and more her belonging to the enemy family for him. Suddenly, the maid said that she was rushing through the back door. Because she was very suitable, Liana was immediately surprised. The maid explained that this is the door specifically for merchants and representatives of the salons that were called here. The front door is now closed, since the owner does not go outside. No one can but enter the residence. The girl tried to understand what such security measures were made to, guessing that it was at all for a reason. After a couple of minutes, Liana appeared before her brother in new clothes. He, in turn, stated that it looked very beautiful. She noticed in shock that he had a knee and said that no jewel would compensate for what she had to endure. But now he is not trying to pay off, but simply wants to please her, like a real loving and devoted brother. He asked her not to be shy, because he would do anything for her. Now the guy looked like a real handsome man. It seemed to Liana that now he was insanely beautiful, but she should not forget that it was her brother. She politely asked him to get up, thinking that right now absolutely all the servants are shocked in their direction. The girl stated that she would accept everything, and Cheezer asked if she wanted to get the residence in which they are now. Hearing a negative answer, the guy smiled, again asked if she wanted him to give her all himself. Sometime later, they walked along the corridor, when suddenly Liana stated that she would continue to go unaccompanied. Chézère replied that she did not want to leave her alone. The girl retorted that she was somehow alone in prison. Suddenly, for an instant, the guy's gaze changed when he said that from now on, she would never be alone. Going out into the street, Liana thought that this was the same road leading to the back door, which the girl spoke of. She captured jewelry and gold coins, as well as a bracelet, because leaving him next to Chézère is simply dangerous. She remembered how the Palladus said that commoners could live on 1 gold coin for a month. Liana did not know whether she would have to escape now, when she suddenly noticed a guard who would definitely block her path. Thinking, she concluded that she would have to wait a bit with the shoot. And now you have to go back. At that very moment, the maid was approaching her, responsible for the stables, and asked if she could help her with something. Liana replied that she was curious where this road leads. The maid replied that she was leading straight out. The girl realized that she had guessed, and it was the necessary road, which she was obliged to use soon. Suddenly, the maid came up to her and began to ask her in a whisper if she accidentally wanted to go outside. With a smile on her face, she stated that if she wants, she would help her, because she knows a way to leave the residence. Seeing Liana's surprised gaze, she explained that she had bribed a servant before that to go out. Then the maid moved a couple of steps, saying with a sweet smile that 1 gold coin would be enough for her. To the remark that there is a lot of nights, she replied that there is a path that the grooms used exclusively. The thing was that it stinks of manure very much there. Liana decided that it was suitable for her and handed her a coin. The maid noticed that usually aristocrats are very picky to everything and would not try to walk along this road. Liana replied that the prison was retraining people. The maid said that the residence was going on a lot of rumors about her, one of them about the fact that she became a completely different person. The girl asked if she had changed a lot. The maid answered in the affirmative, adding that they came, explaining that it is difficult to meet the grooms here now. Liana decided to return, but the maid said that now it is easy for strangers to penetrate the territory of Dormalite. They were very hard to prepare, and learning about her return, so she upset them a little with her behavior. It turns out that it was prepared and did not have to, because before it was much more wary, so much so that it even enraged. But the main reason is now happening, her brother's relationship with her. But she must understand one very important thing. Having chopped the girl on the ground, the The pseudo-servant explained that she did not feed much hatred of her, but to her brother. She could only see her legs when she said that she did not even imagine how insignificantly she looks now. When Liana became conscious, she found that she was in some room, being completely connected. She relaxed, but only because it never occurred to her that hatred of Shizere would fall upon now. Trying to get out, the girl realized that she was tightly connected, after which she decided to take advantage of the help of a bracelet. Having whispering the spell, she felt how the rope immediately began to unleash herself, and she did everything. Looking at the door, Liana decided that she was locked, so she would have to use magic again or wait for someone. But the girl did not have time to approach her. She immediately heard some kind of roar, because of which she unconsciously closed her ears. At that very moment, she felt the smell of Gary and smoke, when suddenly someone began to shout loudly that the fire began. Suddenly, the door opened, and the same maid entered inside that deceived her, and now she was strictly asked for help. Her apron was stained with blood. She promised that she would forget all the insults, but Liana replied that she had to think earlier. She stated that she was bribed by those, and she was only a performer, after which she asked her brother to save her life. At that very moment, the girl heard a familiar voice, and immediately after that, a sharp blade pierced the body of the maid. When her limp body fell to the floor, Chaser said that it was good that he did not have to look for a long time, because he was worried. From the fright, the legs of Liana ceased to obey her, because of which she stumbled and fell, without taking her eyes off her brother. He asked why she escaped. She replied that she was not running away. Then he decided to refrack his question. Crouching near her, Cheezer asked why she planned to escape, and why she wanted to leave him again. The guy called this a betrayal, after which he asked what the reason for the escape was in her head this time. Why did he say that he would not allow her to avoid, and not to make one mistake twice, because he learned a lot over the past time? Suddenly, he drew attention to the girl who helped to steal her, suggesting that there were still supporters, and then survivors were probably left. But she may not worry, because today he will destroy them all to one. Suddenly, a crazy smile appeared on his face when he stated that he was always offended when she wanted to escape.